Hey, Austin, when we start, can you display the, well, actually, maybe I'll just grab a page from out here. I just wanted to go over the etiquette. And my guide, so I don't have my packet. I'll just grab it.
Or do you want this one?
I got it.
Wi-Fi password. Do we have a public Wi-Fi password?
We do. It's kind of hard to.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a public one or.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's not a simple word.
Here you go, Jane.
Oh, oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, it's easier than Microsoft.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those, you know.
You're getting charged.
What?
You're getting charged up.
Yeah. It's getting there.
Yeah.
6%. Should have checked it before. Okay, are we live on YouTube already?
Oh, there we go.
Start the recording.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We want to welcome everyone to the Alpine Planning Commission meeting for September 21st, 2021. It is streaming on YouTube. You can always go to the city's website and there'll be a link there if you want to, if you're bored on a Tuesday evening and would care to watch Planning Commission or City Council. It's actually kind of nice that you can watch things that you're interested in, even if you can't get down here. So, and we'll go ahead and start the meeting. We have joining online on the Zoom meeting, we have Troy Slade of Planning Commission. We have Ethan Allen and John McKay, and we're excusing Alan McDonald for tonight. He's out of town. And we have Ed Bush and our empty seat, should anyone want to talk to the mayor about serving on Planning Commission, the empty chair there, and myself, Jane Greiner. And then from the city, we have Austin Roy, who's the city planner. Jed Muhlstein's on the Zoom call. He's the city engineer. And is Marla recording this off of the recording these days, or is she online?
She's she'll be recording it
Off the recording. Okay,
yeah.
Sometimes we have someone live who's doing the notes for us, but she's listening to recordings now. So
she had surgery recently, so
well, we'll excuse
using
her.
technology to her advantage.
Hopefully it wasn't on her fingers.
No, fingers still work.
Oh, good. Okay, so to start with, Ethan Allen will give us an opening prayer, and then I've asked Ed Bush to lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful that we can meet tonight and to have a chance to live in a lovely city of Alpine. And we're thankful for the opportunities we have to serve. And we ask you that we may be able to do things that will enhance our community and bring us closer together. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me. Standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We appreciate those of you who have taken time out of your schedule to come to the meeting. Before we start, I just want to go over the public meeting and hearing etiquette, since we'll be having public hearing as part of this meeting. Anyone who speaks needs to be recognized by the chairperson, and you have to come up to the microphone to speak. When you speak, you need to state your name and address, and then just speak clearly, just right into the microphone so that it can be recorded properly for the meeting. Be respectful to others, refrain from disruptions. Conversations in the audience get picked up and makes it hard for us to hear. And I'll keep your comments constructive, not disruptive. And then like no cheering or booing or outbursts. And if you bring any exhibits or photos, they become property of the city. Please silence your cell phones, beepers, or pages as my phone vibrates. And then you limit your comments to a reasonable length. Typically, we have 3 minutes. They say 2, but sometimes we try to do that. And also, if you do leave during the meeting, if you stand right out here, we have to leave the door open because this is a public meeting, so we cannot shut the door. So if you chat, just go all the way around to the front of the building to do that, so it doesn't pick it up. So anyway, that's kind of the etiquette for public meetings in the city. And the first item on the agenda is public comment. Public comment at this point of the agenda is for anything that's not on the agenda. So if you ever have a concern or something that you want to bring to the city's attention, there's always time at the beginning of planning commission and city council for you to bring that up. So if anyone has comment on something that's not on the agenda right now is the time, please come forward with that. Anyone have that? Okay. All right, we'll move on then. So our first action item is the public hearing for a requested zone change of 542 South Alpine Highway. So before we start that public hearing, we'll have Austin Roy introduce some information to us, and then we'll have a public hearing on it. Then we'll have some discussion among the council members.
Okay, all right. So thank you. So this item is regarding 542 Alpine Highway. So some of you may have gotten letters in the mail that say 842 Alpine Highway. That was a mistake. So the county records actually were showing it as 842. So anyways, it's actually 542. So if any of you are here are concerned that you're above that area that's going to be zoned, we're talking about the Bangeter property. So most of you are probably familiar with the Bangeter property on the bend of Alpine Highway. And I've highlighted that here on the map to kind of clarify what we're talking about. So it is a piece of land that's 27.4 acres in size. It's currently located in the CR 40,000 zone. On this property tonight, we're hearing a proposal to rezone this property. So the proposal would rezone 3.31 acres is business commercial. And then another 7.24 acres would also be rezoned commercial, but with a senior housing overlay on top of it. And then the remaining 10.17 acres would remain in the CR 40,000 zone. However, they have proposed, the proposal is to put that into a PRD, which means they dedicate some open space and then they would get increased density as kind of a trade-off for that. So that's what we're hearing tonight. Let me pull up the concept plan so you can kind of see what this looks like. And those that live near this would have gotten this in the mail. There might have been some changes since the one that was mailed out. I think this is the same one though that was mailed out. And so just to kind of give you a point of reference. So on the right-hand side of the screen here, this would be the Alpine Highway, the curve so this is where it curves along here. What they're proposing are 3 commercial buildings here on the front or east side of the property. Behind that, you see these are residential units, senior housing units. And then along the borders, so on the northwest and then on the south, these are about approximately 20,000 square foot lots. And then over here in the green, this triangle is open space. So a couple of key things to point out about this property is it is located, it has a lot of obstacles that anyone that's going to develop this is going to run into a couple of obstacles. And so one being that the Alpine Highway is actually not a city road. It's actually a state-owned street owned by UDOT. So any development that goes in here would have to have access points off of the Alpine Highway, and UDOT would have to approve of those. So that's kind of a caveat there. And then right here, you see this rectangular shape on the southwest portion of the screen here where I'm moving my mouse. That's the Metropolitan Water District has an easement that runs through here. So there's actually a large 7-foot steel pipe that runs from Deer Creek to Salt Lake Valley, supplying 400,000 households with water from the Deer Creek Reservoir. So that actually runs underground there. There's an easement for that. And so that's another thing that has to be taken into consideration on the development here. This zone change, if the Planning Commission and the City Council decide to move forward with doing some type of zone change here, it should be carefully, it should run hand in hand with a concept plan. So staff would recommend that there be both a concept plan and the zone change that run simultaneously and concurrent with one another, so that we're not approving something without a concept plan and vice versa. So we're not creating density for something that has no plan. Some of the things that they're going to have to consider. So this is a very basic concept. This is not an actual concept plan. So at an actual concept plan, we would require further details on things like off-street parking, screening, landscaping details, and trash. And we would look at like the design of the buildings. That's another thing that we look at. So at this stage, we haven't seen anything like that. I believe they are going to send me some designs that they might show tonight. But the off-street, so, you know, those are things that they're going to have to address at a future date when we can get a more refined concept plan. So the off-street parking, based on this plan, there's just not enough information to kind of determine that. Screening, what that is it means whenever you have business commercial, you have to create a barrier in between the business commercial and the residential. And so that could be a fence, a wall, vegetation, but they have to have some kind of a barrier in between neighboring residential properties and then the commercial property. And so that's something they'll have to address. If it is zone business commercial, the business commercial zone does require 20% of that area of the business commercial area be landscaped. And so based on this plan here, there's just not enough information to judge that, but that again would have to be looked at. They'd also have to cover dumpsters and things like that. But so tonight, what we're really looking at is, I mean, this is a concept. This is really to see, okay, we want to do this zone change. This is the idea that we want to do. And we're trying to see if this is moving in the right direction, and that's what the developers asking. That's why we're holding a public hearing and to see if this proposal is what the Planning Commission, if this is what they want. So let me see here. I know that Jed has some other comments. He's actually joining us online, so he might want to add some more.
You bet. So I think Austin already kind of touched on some points that I was going to bring up as well. We're at a stage where this is like a concept of a concept in my mind. There's the concept plan. Well, let me back up. I think the developer is really trying to see if there is an appetite for something like this. So they haven't put a lot of work and engineering and effort into their concept plan. I mean, if you look at the staff report, our report kind of picks apart their concept plan, but I don't think that's the point of what the developer is trying to accomplish tonight. What they're really trying to accomplish is, does the Planning Commission and City Council have any appetite for this? So I can briefly touch on just some of the things that I mentioned in the staff report. So, well, let me back up a little bit. Austin already mentioned that we're talking about a very specific zone change here, a zone change that is very specific to a certain concept plan. And so both plans need to run together and be approved together in order for everything to work. And if that's the case, then we need a more solid concept plan for us to work with, because we know from what has been turned in with this application that this concept plan wouldn't work as shown to us today, but a variation of this concept plan could work. But just a couple things. Austin already mentioned that they would be fronting on Alpine Highway and they have 2 connections there. And so just for example, I have talked with UDOT. They have very specific rules in their intersection spacing. And their intersection spacing is 750 feet. And just looking at their concept plan, there's less than 750 feet within those 2 connections. So I know right from the get-go that that wouldn't work. And so just a general comment, if there is appetite for a rezone of this area, then one of the requirements is going to be that the developer work with UDOT and come up with a viable option as far as intersections. And they may be able to get a variance or an exception from UDOT to have what they've shown. We just don't know that yet because we haven't got that far. Also, in terms of roads, Austin mentioned the Metropolitan Water District easement. As part of the noticing requirements, the Metropolitan Water District did receive a letter of the potential zone change in this area. And they actually provided comment back to staff, essentially telling us that this concept plan as shown would not work. I did talk to the Metropolitan Water District, and just through emails, I asked them if some other options would work. For example, bring the road in a little further south and then cross their easement at a 90-degree angle. And they said through email that something like that could work. But again, this kind of goes along with the UDOT thing. We just haven't got far enough to be able to work with the district and give them more of a solid plan that they can vet and also give us some kind of approvals on. So there's some hurdles here that are basically saying this concept plan wouldn't work. But again, like I said earlier, I think the developer's purpose and intent is just mainly to try to see if there's an appetite for something like this. And so I think that's more of the purpose of tonight, is to generally give them some direction if there is an appetite for this. Whether this is approved, denied, or tabled, the idea is to also push this same item along to City Council next week to see if there's even an appetite for it. If there's not, then obviously the developer will go in a different direction. If there is, then they can work on this concept plan and start working with these other entities and fine-tuning their plan to see if they can get something that will work. So yeah, I think that's about all I want to mention. I'll cut it off right there.
Did you have anything else?
The only other thing that I have is, we do have some renderings of what kind of the commercial would look like.
Okay.
Those have been kind of submitted here at the last minute, but we could kind of show those to kind
Yeah,
of.
why don't we just show them? Let's just see everything that we have and
What's being
go
proposed.
from there. I mean, it sounds like, we're not to the point it could officially move forward really, but I think looking at it would be great.
Just,
Do you know what type of business buildings they're proposing? Are they office type space, or are they proposing retail space? Those looks kind of like office.
From what I understand, it would be kind of commercial pads. Maybe these would be the buildings that would be built on them, but
Okay.
they would be leased out to
Okay.
kind of much similar, kind of like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we have over here north of the roundabout,
Okay.
kind of Johnny Johnson's development that he did there, it would be probably similar to that,
Okay.
where, we
Okay.
might have different tenants come and lease it out or something.
Okay. Let's just go ahead and look through these then.
So.
Austin, does this property fall in the historic district?
If it were to be rezoned business commercial, we would also apply the historic gateway historic
Was it some
requirements to it, so it would have to meet those architectural guidelines.
It was a cool cloudy day on their computers. Must be able to pick a weather option for the day. It's pretty cool that you can make renderings like that, though.
Go back to the previous one. Yeah. That's a good kind of overhead view. Overall view, I should say.
I mean, this looks similar to the buildings that are built to the northeast of the roundabout.
Kind of the newer style.
Right, right.
Looks really similar to the kind of the Harris office building.
Right.
Right,
You're
right,
familiar with
right,
that one.
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
It does look like, I mean, they
Okay.
put some thought into the materials that would
Definitely.
be used.
Mhm.
And it does seem like it would be pretty compatible with what
Gateway
exists.
Historic,
Yeah.
yeah. Do we have someone representing the developer here tonight?
Yeah, we do have some representatives here. So.
Okay. All right, great.
And then also I've received an email from an individual who wanted to be here tonight, but
Okay.
due to obligations, he couldn't. So
Do you want to
when
read
the
that
public
as part
comment
of the
portion
public
comes up, I'll
hearing?
read his
Okay.
comment.
Okay, well, I think, does anyone have any just general questions before we start the public hearing? As far as what it is we're doing or anything? Okay, let's go ahead and start the public hearing. So what we'll do is, you can come to the mic and state your name and address. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If someone has stated exactly your thoughts, there's no reason for like every single person to speak if you feel like your opinion was represented. If you have something new to add, then feel free to come up. We could, do you want the developer to mention anything
I
first, or
think
do you want to do
it might
that
be
before?
helpful to have them comment on anything that we might have
Okay.
overlost.
Yeah, sure, or we could do that now or after public
Uh,
comment with questions,
yeah.
so, or both maybe, huh?
Maybe you could do both. Maybe they
Okay.
can cover anything. And
Okay,
then
why
they
don't you
can
go
answer
ahead,
questions at the end.
if the developer wants to come to the mic, and if you have anything you'd like to add to it. And then often after public comment, the developer usually has some clarifying points out of any concerns that are brought up,
Right.
so.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
My name is John Jensen. I'm part of the application, and it's good to be with you tonight. Thank you for having us on your agenda.
Mhm.
It's always good to be in Alpine. I'm from Utah County. Spent a lot of time up here when I was younger, and it's fun to be here again. As Austin was able to relay and Jeff was able to relay some of the comments from staff input, very similar input was given to us during our DRC interactions. A couple things that we're hoping to solve. There's desires to have trails connecting that subject property in that area to the other side of the creek, which we hope to have and show and be a part of that solution. We have met with UDOT. We had a formal preliminary conversation. You have to apply and get on their agenda, and probably dealt with that. And ultimately, we're able to get very similar comments like Jed expressed. They did give us additional input that sometimes when you don't have exact scenarios that you would like, they have to find a middle ground that they ultimately allow for, just because they know it's difficult, on existing properties. We understand that utilities sometimes can always be a stress if we have gas and water out on the highway, large sewer line going through the property, and then the large water line that Austin relayed through that easement. All reasonable, variables that we need to address, and I think there's all solutions there. A lot of people are concerned about traffic. There's already a lot of traffic on the highway during times of the day, as you probably already know. And we hope through the input we had received from the city that this can be a potential solution. Some people probably would be concerned with the additional cars and trips that would be generated. The city has hoped for a connection between the highway and to the west, kind of over the creek, and this would potentially allow for that to proceed, potentially. Which I like to believe it would help with some of the congestion. As you know, the general plan kind of hints that the city may be open to continue the commercial uses south of the current areas like the art center. I went to the art center maybe, I don't know, pre-COVID, maybe a year before that, and we really wanted to build some office buildings over there, and they kind of had some cool visions as well. And that didn't materialize, but when this property came up, we thought, well, maybe this is a time we can add some of those commercial buildings. Some of these exhibits are ultimately just trying to express that we like to build nice buildings. We want to bring a really cool product to Alpine. And ultimately the uses would be professional office, maybe a little bit of, low-end medical, like the things that don't have a lot of traffic, maybe like a clinic of some kind, chiropractors, things like that. A lot of professionals. We talked about retail. One of the pads on our site plan kind of was theoretical, retail. We weren't quite sure because of the traffic generation. We have engaged a traffic engineer, knowing the traffic would be a big question. So we have a study kind of pending, hoping to get some feedback tonight, maybe give him better input so that those studies would be more directed. Yeah, and I think generally speaking, we're grateful for this opportunity to hear your input and neighbors. We've only talked to one neighbor to the north. There's a couple of neighbors we have, and we've only talked to one, and he was, generally, friendly and accommodating to help us understand some of the variables. We haven't talked to our neighbors to the south. They probably, feel the impact like others would. We're hoping to create a couple things. Per our concept, we're trying to say, look, on the outside of edges, we have like to the west and the south. We're trying to create those half-acre lots that are similar to other things in the city. We have a park, and we're trying to create those buffer zones to continue that same use that our neighbors have, similar to at least. I don't know if you've stood out there, if you've been to the Burgess's, orchard.
Most of us have, I think.
That it's loud. In fact, it's quite loud, almost at any time of the day. We've been out there enough that we're kind of concerned about that edge on the curb. So we believe that putting the commercial there would be a good buffer between potential residents to the west. There's a high need for senior housing. You probably have heard that before. It's real. They're having a hard time finding places to live. There's lots of people that would like to live in units and properties like this, similar to in terms of size and scope. And we're trying to just create a buffer zone between the highway and potential other existing residents to the west and south of us. So yeah, I've covered a lot of things here. I don't know if I've answered any questions or created more questions, but hopefully that gives you some perspective.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll save our questions maybe till later. I think that was a great introduction. So let's go ahead and start the public hearing. Very first, why don't we have Austin read the comment that was emailed into us so we don't forget to do that, and then we'll have the mic. Sorry,
Okay,
put you on the
here we
spot there.
go. All right, so this is from Mr. Brent Bolter. He says, hi, my name is Brent Bolter. I own the property next to the Bangerter property. I am currently out of the country and I'm not able to attend the meeting this evening. So please read these concerns that I have with the proposed plan. Concern number one, I am concerned with the proposed business paths and their location. Having one of the paths so close to our home seems as though it would bring added noise, litter, and lights to an already loud and busy section of the highway. I would like to know if the city is requesting the business section, and if so, why here? 2, the ancillary road on the northeast side would cause undue traffic and congestion at the top of our shared driveway. This would just be more added noise and congestion for the 2 homes that would have to share this area. I would assume that others would address the high density, so I will let others address those concerns. Thank you for reading my letter, Brent.
Okay, thanks. And he's obviously the house that's just to the north that borders this.
Yeah,
I think you know
he's-
who
yeah.
they are.
He's just north of that.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll go ahead and have the mic, go ahead and come up, state your name and address, and go ahead and give us any input you have on both what you're seeing here proposed, any type of zone change at all, or any opinion of what you think should be done. Would love to hear it all.
My name is Suzanne Tyler, and my address is 491 South Alpine Highway. I've got 3 concerns. These look like nice buildings, but I've got 3 concerns. One is this going to increase our taxes? For those of us that are on fixed income, every time it goes up, and I know that the school district keeps going up. So this is my first concern. The second concern is that we are already short on water. You know, we've gone from 3 days to 2 days, and that's a concern for me. Are we going to be able to provide enough water to support those of us that are already here, in addition to this development? And my third is parking. I think that's been addressed tonight. I know that with the fruit stand on the highway there, that's a hazard. And I'm afraid somebody sometime is going to get hurt. You know, people come very fast around that bend, and so that is a hazard. So those are my concerns. So just, you know, don't want things to keep going more expensive, and I want to be able to, you know, take a bath once in a while if I feel like it, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, okay.
And I like
Thank
your
you.
shirt. All right, next.
Hi, my name is Shahbaz Janjua. I live on 549 Pine Drive. I'm just here for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not even sure that why are we still doing zone changes. We have all seen what happens with zone changes, more people, more houses, more traffic. Everything just goes up. I don't know what the benefit is to the city for changing zones. This was set up as 1 acre zone. There was a reason behind it when the original thing was set up. I think it should stay 1 acre zones. It should not change at all whatsoever. If there's no commercial, hey, hallelujah to the residents of Alpine. Okay, and I also heard them say something about in the future, they might be doing a trail or doing a proposal for the additional 10 acres. Please, 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 please do not do these changes to the zone codes. We all talk about the openness of Alpine. We all talk about small town feeling of the Alpine. Where does that give us those 2 things? My own small town feeling and openness starts from my own house. And when I go out with my kids in the backyard and play or do a barbecue and stuff, we have already seen what Alpine View Estates has done. Now I go back out and my openness is gone. Please, at least we can still work on other people that are still here that care about this. We care about this town. We care about this city. And if we do, then all of these changes are not necessary. I don't know what benefit it brings to the city. I do not have any clue. When Alpine View Estate was going in, I begged. All the neighbors begged, and unfortunately, it did not happen. Then I heard that another one, it did happen, that they were able to keep it into 1 acre lots. So I beg all of you, please look at Alpine as a whole, not just as one piece, and keep it as what is currently zoned at. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for sharing your opinion.
Hello, I'm Paul Felstead. I live at 365 River Circle. So they usually bring it up on the map. So I'm across Dry Creek
Mhm.
on the
Oh, yeah.
backside of this.
Right.
I appreciate the buffer along the creek, the traditional style single family homes. Looks good. A couple of things that I heard. So I asked for the rendering of the parking area behind the commercial to be displayed because so my frame of reference for some context is my dad lived in River Meadow for 5 years.
Mhm.
So seeing senior accessibility to things. As was pointed out, the fruit stand traffic, so moving the traffic for the commercials, so be bi-directional behind it, the access or the road and the parking seems to be quite tight for being able to, I believe it's also the access for the senior homes,
Mhm.
which there was no renderings of
Mhm. Yeah.
in that. I have a question on overlay utilization. Is that something that can change, or is that a one-time committed?
Well, that's kind of why they're proposing, saying that this would kind of have to come together. So senior housing overlay is only allowed in commercial. So first of all, an area has to be commercially zoned. And then in a commercial zone, someone can apply for senior overlay housing. So that's the only area that it's allowed.
Okay. I don't know the market, how they're doing their marketing, but it also, there's no common area
Mhm.
for type of facility. And in the senior world, that seems to be a very desirable thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think like they said, this is super preliminary concept of a concept. So I think, yeah, those are all really good things. And I think they would definitely have to come out
And
farther down the road.
yeah, and I did the comment about the noise. Yes, living across there, the traffic noise is.
Do you hear it clear over across where you are? Yeah.
Yes, so it's something that we notice, and thank you for your time.
Someone needs to invent a white noise fence. Get rich. Okay. Anyone else?
My name's Lonnie Layton. I live 62 South Piccadilly Circle in Alpine. I wasn't going to comment, but just thinking about this, obviously all the residents here like it the way that it is, but we obviously, you know, the general plan and things like that, there's going to be more development, probably commercial down Alpine Highway at some point. My only comment, I guess, would be when you all think of this project, please consider, I guess, let's think ahead 50 years, you know, like instead of looking at this one piece of property and saying, well, this would work for this piece, let's think in 30 years and there's 10 more of these developments all the way down Alpine Highway. How's this going to fit in? How's the road going to be set up? Things like that. If it's going to be something that's approved, because I know with Burgess, I'm not sure if Burgess is going to still continue to do their fruit stand, you know, moving forward into the future. But I've personally seen 2 or 3 kids almost get run over at that intersection, you know, running onto the road and things like that. It's kind of a disaster, but it's a massive lawsuit waiting to happen. But that's my only comment. It's just when you guys think about this, you guys talk about it, work with developers. If it happens, which I don't want, but if it does, you know, and working with UDOT, I hope that anything that happens on that road is taken setback, you know, with exits and off ramps and things that's set way back off the road where there's good visibility, and thinking way down into the future, how is this going to fit in if more development in the future is created, you know, instead of just looking at it, how do we do it? How do we approve it today? But would it work later?
Thank you. Great comments.
My name is Wally Western. I live on 541 West, 800 South. just looking at the senior housing that is kind of laid out there, how many units was it?
I actually didn't pay attention to the units other than just
yeah,
that these
it seemed to be-
sections were
it
here
seemed
and
to be
here.
about-
So
it's
it's kind of TVA.
About 60 units.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
TBD,
did
I
not
think.
see any places for parking for
Yeah,
friends, relatives, things like that.
yeah.
I look at the one that's being built just down the street here. Talk about senior housing, that started out at supposedly around the high fours to 500.
Mhm.
And now I understand it's 900,000 for each
Probably,
unit.
yeah, the market has changed so
What kind of
much.
seniors are gonna be able to afford to move in over there? Only the rich and wealthy.
Mm.
And to me, there's just way too many. If we ever did change, I would like to see a lot more, no less than CR20s. And because there has been across the street, the Tiger property, and a few of those got changed to 20. That's probably more reasonable to me to see a lot more of those in there
Mhm.
than a lot more senior housing. Because if you're gonna build senior housing, I think it should be affordable. So
Okay, thank you.
that's my comments.
Great, thanks.
So my name's Clark Burgess. I live at 905 East 300 North. So we own the Burgess property. Just to give you a little update on kind of where we're at. If you don't know, we sold our property 2 weeks ago, and the new owner is
Did not
Paul
know that.
Gu.
Mm.
Last name's GU.
Mhm.
So from what I understand, his plans are to keep the orchard and to build one house and have the management people, Cherry Hill Farms, run the orchard.
Oh,
He just
yeah.
wants to
I
live in the
wondered how that
orchard.
was connected
Yeah.
with the Cherry Hill Farms.
Yeah, so we leased it to
okay.
them this year. They're gonna run theirs, and they're gonna run ours on 300 North. So
Oh,
we're
interesting.
thrilled with the sale.
Okay,
Um,
it's great.
yeah.
Great for you guys.
Yeah, great for us. So, yeah, the only thing I have concerned, I mean, there's a lot of slope going off that hill to
Yeah.
Bangors, and I know you've been out there and walked the
Mhm.
property.
Mhm.
That's a concern, because even if you look at where they come up with their alfalfa
Mhm.
or their bees off that road,
Mhm.
it's really hard to get on that road. And if it's a 40 mile an hour, you're coming 45 or 50. And yeah, it is dangerous there at the fruit stand. I mean, they had a wreck this year,
Mm.
I think for the first time, but it is very dangerous, and it's a bad corner.
Yeah.
So I know they've talked about a roundabout there, not right there, but farther south. That would be awesome.
Mhm.
I don't know if UDOT would require that or not,
Mm.
as that kind of influences the old Heaps property. I don't know who owns that now.
I don't either.
And then the bridge is, and I guess the other thing is, what do you do with the open space? Is it just bare ground? Is it a park? Is it, what do you do with the
Yeah.
property under the easement? Because it'd be nice to have something nice there instead of just
Yeah.
open space with nothing. So, yeah, and I don't know if we need, how many more commercial businesses we need in town, to be honest. We've kind of always been,
Mhm.
we had what we needed, but maybe we
Yeah.
need more, I don't know. So just giving up that on our side of the property, what's
Thank you.
going on, so.
Did they also purchase over on 300 North? Did
No,
you-
we
Yeah,
kept
okay,
that.
so you kept that where your house is and then we go by that, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that. And just FYI, talking to Rollies today, they're looking at a 10 to 20 year lease
Mhm.
on running the orchard.
Nice.
Paul just wants to live in an orchard and have a house and have it run around it. So
The rest of us can enjoy the beautiful view.
yeah, money from San Francisco, IT,
Mhm.
money, and he's got more money, knows what to do with, and wants a home
Not
in
a
Alpine.
problem. Buy an
Yeah.
orchard, yeah.
Buy an orchard. And It's kind of like buying a zoo, Come live in the zoo and let somebody else manage it for you. So
Sounds
anyway, I
good.
hope that helps.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate that. That's really good information, and it would be nice to chat with the new owner sometime, Austin, about making that safe for everyone. I think the community loves that. It's kind of a side note, they love that, but I think everybody does worry about that off the side, and I know it's just like a conditional use, seasonal use that allows it. But anyway, we can talk about that another time. Does anyone else have comment, or? Now is your chance on this. Not that we won't, oh, come on up. I'm sure we'll have more discussion, but if you're here tonight, and you've made the effort of being here, feel free to comment?
Talk me into it.
All right, yay, I knew I'd get to somebody.
Um, So my name is Mike Webster. I recently purchased a home at 546 West 800 South.
Okay,
So I'm
just south of this.
Yeah, just
Mhm,
south of this property. I don't actually border it,
mhm.
but very, very close. There's 2 acres next to us that there's rumors of a, access going to this property. on
Yeah,
those
they
vacant
own
2
that
acres.
acreage there as well.
Do the
Did they
Magers
sell
own that
that?
or
Did they
somebody else?
sell that lot in conjunction with this? No, okay.
No,
I
okay.
don't think so.
Actually,
So,
one of their
concerns
daughters
there
were
that could
relatives
turn
too.
into an access road.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think everybody on 800 South has concerns
Mhm.
of
I had
being
heard
the
that
access.
mentioned before once too.
Yeah.
I mean,
so-
not that no one's had a proposal for it. It's just
Right.
like a rumor. Not
But,
that
but
anyone who
with,
bought it wants
with,
it.
with UDOT saying, it's 750 feet, or, Austin
Right.
said over here.
Yeah.
Then that becomes a viable option, right?
Yeah.
So that's a concern, obviously. And then I believe Mr. Burgess stated that do we really need more commercial? That's one of my concerns. I mean, there's a lot of now available signs in Alpine, properties for lease. There's a lot south on SR 92 and Alpine Highway that have been empty for a long time. Do we really need more commercial? Even though the buildings are beautiful, I think they look great, but do we really need more commercial? And then what do the senior housing units look like? I think there's way too many of them. I think it's 63. And what do they look like? And then the concerns everybody else has as well.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
So just as a note, it's 57 that they're proposing.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other comments? Okay, well, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Perry Terrell and I live on 884 South Alpine Highway. I've lived on the highway most of my life, so I've seen it basically transition from hardly any traffic to it's almost impossible to get out on the highway. And especially with this subdivision going in right at that junction or that curve, it's only going to bring a lot more traffic, a lot more danger in the area. And I know that's already been brought up, but with the road being 45 miles an hour, we know most people don't go 45 on that road. They go at least 55, and it's a real danger even trying to get out onto the highway most of the time. And so I'm concerned about that. And also, what actually are the benefits of bringing the businesses into the area? What is it benefiting us as residents of Alpine? I'm not seeing any benefit because, the whole time I've lived here, I've seen different units of commercial that's been empty and just not effective that it's constantly changing. So I don't know if that's been discussed as to what benefit it's actually going to bring to the people of Alpine, but I'm concerned of what it's going to bring into Alpine and how many more people, how much more traffic is going to be on that road, because it's really getting hard and difficult and challenging for the people in the area, especially in the area, but for all of Alpine.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing then. And we will ask the developer, do you have any more comment after that? I think you addressed everything beforehand, really. Okay, let's have a little bit of discussion and then we'll have you come up to answer in case we come up with any questions as well that we would like to bring up. So, so discussion among the council members. I wrote down a few of the questions as far as tax increases go. I don't see how anything here would affect tax increases. Austin, do you see anything as a city planner that would somehow create a tax burden for the existing citizens?
I don't see that this would increase your taxes.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Okay,
It should actually increase the tax base.
yeah,
I mean, the commercial properties are going to be taxed at a much higher rate, or at least more dollars per square foot, as it were, than any residential property would ever generate.
Right.
so it would
And-
actually
and-
generate money.
And it doesn't put any real demand on the services. You're talking about schooling, the senior housing, doesn't put any demand on the schooling.
Right.
Or school systems. And so from a tax perspective, I don't see a negative to this at all.
That's great. So one of the other things that someone brought up was water shortage concerns. I'll speak to that. From what I understand, one of the biggest uses of water is 1 acre lots. that are landscaped. And so this actually would probably have less of a drain on water, even though it's more people. Our culinary water is not really in question. But our secondary water is what we are concerned about. And so it's not really a secondary water issue the way with what they're proposing. So does anyone have any comment on that or disagree with me on that?
I think Jed can weigh in here, but I think the highest demand for water consumption is actually agricultural.
Right.
Arizona is having troubles with their water supply because they're trying to preserve agricultural, but it's just too consuming on their water supplies.
Yeah.
So I think, and we have a spigot there, a pivot.
Yeah.
On the property now, so it's using a lot. Is that a well dedicated to that property, or is that?
I don't recall.
Jed, do you know
No,
where they get
there's-
that water from?
There's not a well dedicated to that property. They're using the secondary water
Using fisher
system,
as well.
just like all
And
the
so,
other ag users.
Jed, are comments along this line correct?
Yes, I think they are in general. So when we've had zone change applications in the past, we have studied in depth the differences in water uses versus each situation.
Mhm.
And honestly, it kind of comes out as a wash. In general, the overall usage of water is approximately the same. So in one situation, you have more outdoor and less indoor. In the other situation, you have more indoor and less outdoor.
Mhm.
And I kind of touched on this in the staff report. I didn't talk about it at all in our discussion earlier, but in general, I mean, the bottom line for me is we don't have a strong opinion either way for or against the zone change request in terms of water use, because it just ends up being a wash in the end.
Okay.
Having said that, though, we do have to remember that our culinary water is our most important water.
Mhm.
So when we do a zone change, it's always for low, or it's always for higher density. Therefore, we are always chipping into the culinary water supply when we are doing zone change requests or
That's
approving
great.
zone changes. So
Good call out.
culinary water is definitely, it takes precedent over our secondary. So we do need to be careful when we do zone changes, because if we keep chipping into that culinary, it will be a problem for us at some point.
Okay, great. Good call out on that. Thank you.
Jed, what about the sewer system that would be needed to support this kind of project?
So for this project, luckily they're at the very end of the line in the city. So as a matter of fact, the line that runs through their property is the main trunk line for the city. And it goes down to 800 South and then exits out into Highland. This line is currently, it's running at 50% full, which in terms of capacity, 50% is when we consider a line at capacity. You don't want to take it above that because you run into plugging issues. If you get a big flush at once, that we call it the Super Bowl flush. Everybody at halftime runs to the bathroom. Then you don't have the capacity for those big surge of flushes. So I did run this plan by Horrocks engineers. They maintain all the utility master plans for the city, and their comments were generally that the city's, our master plan has already planned for this area, and we should be able to serve it either way.
What about the sewer? Is there another sewer line behind the property there on the west side?
That's the one I'm talking about, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is one out in Alpine Highway, but
Oh,
it's at a higher elevation. You wouldn't be able to connect.
right,
to
that's
that.
what I was wondering. I'm looking at the map wrong, so, okay, thank you. That's what I was thinking, is the elevation drop wouldn't work, so.
Yep.
Okay. That was good. Good call out on that. Parking, I don't think is, it's something that would be addressed later on. And obviously, would have to be.
But staff reviewed it and
Mhm.
felt like the parking was certainly within the ordinance
Mhm.
capacity. I'm concerned about a lack of landscaping space. It looks like it's all asphalt.
Yeah,
The renderings were that way for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah,
So-
that's what I was assuming. Like, I definitely don't think that the quantity of senior housing would ever work there with no,
What was it, 20%?
They have to have 20% landscaping.
yeah.
So anything that would be zoned business commercial would have to meet that requirement.
What about, yeah, so if that includes senior housing? Oh, on the senior housing overlay, what is the requirement for landscaping?
I'm not positive on
Okay.
what it's,
'Cause I
but there
think
is,
they-
there is a landscaping
I think they need
requirement.
to each stand on their own. You can't just put like a big area out front and then say that covers the senior housing overlay, so. Yeah, definitely some issues there.
I mean, no, this is very preliminary, but that's the deficit in my mind is
Yeah.
just lack of open space,
Public parking,
public parking.
gathering, yeah. Those are one of the biggest problems with the senior housing is when Sunday afternoon, if everyone comes to Sunday dinner, there's nowhere for anyone. to
Yeah,
park.
I guess I'm agreeing with John. I mean, so I appreciate the comment. We would all like to keep it the way it is. It's a great
Mhm,
open space,
mhm.
but you know, that's not what's going to be in the future. But I think, you know, the public and we are all used to looking down there and seeing an open space and not as crowded as this. And I think
Mhm.
with the density of the senior housing, the lack of kind of open areas and whatever, I think what we would see is office buildings and just a valley of homes, you know, to a high density homes down there, which I don't think is what we were looking for to fit the character of Alpine.
Mhm. That's a good comment. One of the things that has been brought up multiple times is what is the benefit to the city? So let's look at that and say, you know, what would any kind of a zone change benefit the city? So right now it's 1 acre lots. What benefit would any kind of a commercial change have for the city?
Well, I mean, it could be tremendous if you had the right business, but I'm pretty
Mhm.
concerned that that's hard to achieve.
Mhm.
I don't
So-
see
so
a
tax
business that's a tax
Tax
generating business
Generation.
is
I mean,
unlikely to
at
go
some
there.
point, We're gonna build out at some point and then, right now, we rely on impact fees for every
Right.
new home. Those impact fees go to the city and that's how we stay afloat. But
Mhm.
at one point, eventually, we're gonna develop everything and then we're gonna
No
need
impact
some kind of
fees.
income, right?
Right.
And so that's
Yeah,
where
so
commercial
when
comes
we
in.
talk about looking to the future of Alpine, that would be, you know, maybe one of the reasons that, you know, we would consider something, because if there are no impact fees, then your taxes will go up. Because there will be no other way to get taxes. So that's a concern that we don't often think about, but funding the city
I mean, does
long-term.
commercial office building space really generate
don't know,
all
but
that
it
much
does.
versus like a retail? I
Right.
mean, I look at retail as being kind of the larger
Mhm.
generation of with sales tax and
Yeah.
stuff versus.
But doesn't sales tax get divided amongst all the regional municipalities? I thought that's. what-
There's
No,
there's
I mean-
city, county, and state
There-
on
you
sales
get-
tax.
Yes.
The
Some-
city gets a portion.
Yeah, you
But-
got,
But we
portion.
get a portion of the Highlands sales tax.
No, I know, but we also get a portion due to, see, what we really need to do is get a lot of people that are ordering from Amazon and
Yeah.
getting charged sales
Yeah,
tax, and
so
then
they
the city
should
gets a.
modify.
We are
Our-
actually
our
getting that.
tax-
Right,
size
because the
actually-
city has
yeah.
had a larger sales tax revenue
Mhm.
this year
Yeah.
than historically we've
Mhm.
had because of all the online.
They
Yeah,
do,
you know,
they do
activity.
taxes based on the ship to address. And so the ship to address
Yeah.
being your home, that's the
I think
sales
it went up
location.
50% in 2020 because of
Online orders.
Yeah.
online orders.
But
so-
because of before that,
was
it
a
was
good
just
year
the
for
snow
us.
cones and a few, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is something I think though that's consider it's not, we do get some county, some state, and then a bigger portion of the city tax, the city portion of the tax that we keep all within the city. You know, like it's like say your tax was 7%, like a certain percent of the 7 is state, goes to state, certain percent goes to the county, certain percent goes to the city. So, but yeah, that's a question that, you know, when people ask, why would we ever change or why would we ever want any kind of commercial? We did have a tax study done, a fairly expensive tax study done about, what, 2010? Do you have that?
It was actually, I think it was 2007, was a leakage study to see. Is that what
I
you're
think
talking
it had
about?
to have been after that because I was already on planning commission and I wasn't
Okay.
on planning commission that long ago.
Maybe we
I
have another
think I
one, yeah.
probably started on planning commission about 2011 or 2012. So sometime in there, that study, we haven't really referred back to it. And I've mentioned a couple of times it might be worth looking at. They didn't think that a retail area would be successful unless there was some type of a gathering place associated with it. Like if you had a
Restaurants or theaters or something.
restaurant or a theater or a, some type of center, or even some things like fountain, splash pad, some kind of a community benefit to it that would bring people to it. I think the question many people have brought up is also valid is, do we want to bring people to Alpine and why would you do it? Does the city need more gathering places? That was kind of what it looked at. Does the city want gathering places? Does the city want a sales tax base? Do they want to have revenue come into the city from any other sources?
Well, I mean, I
than
think,
taxing
I
people?
don't think there's any question that we would like a sales tax base.
Mhm.
But
We have to
I
trade.
guess the real question is there really a possibility of that?
Yeah.
Right.
Or
So
is
can
there a
we-
possibility, or would the citizens rather pay more in taxes and have it stay
Stay,
residential?
Right.
Kind of the voice of the citizens. What would they rather have? Would they rather have a long-term taxes go up versus, a quiet community versus bringing in some type of tax base?
so another concern I had
Mm-hmm.
on this, we built a buffer around the property,
Mhm.
but we haven't done it on the north end where there's still two citizens that have
Mhm.
homes.
Right, there's a street there, in fact.
Right, you put a street right down
Mhm.
there, which they have a shared driveway with the
Mhm.
Bangor Farm back there.
Mhm.
Right.
But I mean, going from a driveway to a street is quite a
Mhm.
difference.
Yes, it
And
absolutely is.
there really hasn't been any consideration into what those
Mhm.
people,
Yeah, the
what
impact for
changes
them.
is gonna do
Yeah.
to them. And that was Brent, I guess, who's saying,
Right.
I know that the neighbors behind Brent
Mhm.
are also concerned. They
Sure.
haven't decided
Yeah.
how they feel completely, but they're definitely concerned about what
Yeah.
that might change.
Yeah, there was someone on Grove Drive when we had that development go up there and they ended up, some of the proposals had a street going along the side of their house and behind their house, it's like, you've got to consider the people whose property are there and.
And I had one other person approach me that has a property
Mhm.
on the southwest corner.
Mhm.
And he has a couple of acres there and is curious if he can have access to those acreage. If this development goes in, is that gonna block off his access or can he?
Well, you can't isolate someone. The
Right.
development has to accommodate, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't like isolate someone's property and make it into an island.
So I mean, they have a home.
We'd
They have
have
a
to look
home on
and
the
Oh, so they have a
facing the
home
other
that
way.
touches it.
But then,
He's
but he
concerned.
has like 1 acre where his home is and then he has another acre behind his home.
Oh, well,
So-
yeah, he would have to.
I guess he's in the conundrum. He has an acre that's probably not a legal buildable lot.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so
Right.
he
Wonder
needs
if he
frontage to turn that into a buildable lot.
Yeah, I
Right,
don't think he can
It-
do that.
Yeah, in the past, I've seen other people in situations like that and they've actually worked with
The
developers
developer.
to
developer
try
to
and
get in there.
get some
Yeah.
kind of access.
Because really, he's just
Okay.
got a big backyard.
Right, that's really especially what he has.
So.
In fact, I think the two neighbors that are to the southwest corner are both in that situation where they have a home lot and then they have a
Uh-huh.
farm lot beyond
Sure.
their home.
Yeah,
So they have like 2 acres
Yeah.
each.
yeah, like you said, unless they want to work with a developer who borders it on the back side to try to get in, they don't have access from the front of their property to the back, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
When we held a hearing on this previously, there seemed to be a lot of residents that lived west of this
Mhm.
that were concerned about connecting ranch to Alpine Highway.
Yeah. Now, did we have a hearing before, or was this just when we toured the property and
No,
citizens?
before that, we actually
It was,
had a
yeah,
presentation made to us in our council meeting or
Hmm,
planning
I'm
commission.
having a
Yeah,
hard
I
time
was gonna say, we
remembering
talk a
that.
lot about the traffic impact from Alpine Highway.
It was It was. one of
Sorry,
the-
let me just
Right.
see,
it
who
was- It
presented
was one of
that?
the banketers.
They actually came to our
Yeah,
meeting and
yeah, I remember
presented.
that too.
I think I maybe was
And
gone.
it was advertised as a public hearing.
Okay,
We talked a lot about traffic impact coming out towards Alpine Highway. I think the other traffic impact we have to take a look is going down Ranch Road and then the impact to Westfield.
mhm,
As, you know, they easily, if somebody wanted to head out in a westerly direction,
mhm.
would take that route probably as an option, or maybe as an option out rather than on the Alpine. So there's a,
Right.
I know that Jed will tell us that, you know, Ranch Road is a, you know, it's a connector
A.
road.
Mhm.
We've heard this before.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just worried that we could then have
Mhm.
another intersection on Westfield that we have to pay attention to.
Mhm, yeah, we also, though, do need to look at the safety. Anytime you have a long corridor like that you can't cross, it can be a safety hazard for like fire crews and things like that to actually access it. If you have to go clear far
Yes.
north or south to get around to that, and it kind of is that situation there. And I think that's why they mentioned that there may have been some hope for a potential connector
Well,
there.
Yeah, no, and I think it's to the city's benefit that we do make that connection.
Mhm,
But in the zoning right now, we would end up maybe
Right.
with like 20 houses that would go into this
Right.
area. You know,
Versus
20
this.
residences versus 76.
Yeah.
Right, and so, you know, the traffic density is much higher
It's
than
a big change.
what the CR 40,000
Absolutely.
zone would put into
Yeah.
this, right? So it's more cars in each direction.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that always gets brought up is that if we want senior housing or if we want other things, that it should be lower income. But the city can't really control the property values in Alpine. And you know, anything that goes in, just like that senior housing that went in, they thought they were gonna be around the $400,000 to $500,000 mark, you know, they didn't change the size of those buildings, but the market has changed. And so one of the arguments we have here sometimes is to go from the CR 40 to a CR 20 so they can be more affordable lots. But they're not any more affordable when they go to half acre. Really, you know, they don't fit into the affordable category really, no
that's
matter
not
what the size.
That's not what we're seeing.
No, that's, yeah, I was gonna say, that's not what we're seeing. And so,
Right,
But
right.
I
you
guess
know.
his argument was that we're not seeing it even if we go to these very small.
I would be,
Right.
interested- I would
Even
I would
the
be interested in
smaller
hearing from the developer on what their plans are for price targets for that senior housing.
yeah. Yeah, let's do that. So I think that's the list of the things that I wrote down other than danger to the traffic, you know, traffic concerns. So if the developer, do you want to come up and give us an idea of, just a minute, okay? Let's have the developer come up and give us an idea of what he's thinking, and then we'll go ahead and let you speak, even though we're done with the public hearing, so.
My name is Jared. I just live, we own a building here in Alpine
Uh-huh.
and my kids go to Mountainville, you guys' favorite school that congests everything
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
every morning and afternoon. And so
It's not your fault.
It's certainly not. Well, I'm not helping. I have a car in line. But I just, a few points that I just wanted to bring up in response to your points.
Mhm.
As you guys talked about, and we've done this in different places, and you know, and usually the city's very well aware of the sales tax consequences of these retail locations, and they're very aware, and Amazon's been a good thing in 2020. Generally speaking, when people propose commercial, everyone's giddy because that means, like, as you've discussed, without impact fees, you know, property taxes will have to go up to cover the city's administrative services. So that's part of it. As far as the taxes, it's I wouldn't even say it's a net neutral. I think it's a net positive for the city. Of course, as you mentioned, the water is kind of a net neutral, you know, not for or against. A couple things that I've noticed, like from a connectivity perspective, we noticed from the general plan and just speaking with the city that there is a real safety issue. I drive up, I live just south of, I live in Highland, but just across the property line. And it's, the Burgess Orchards is a nightmare. Like, it's, you know, frightening driving that. And similarly, you know, as we think about this connection, the connectivity I think is important because even though people on Ranch Road wouldn't want that, of course, as Jed will talk in the city, and is, acting on behalf of the city, that connectivity is certainly a big part of the city's connectivity. I'm hitting traffic at the milkshake stand now, or the fruit stand, going to Mountainville. I don't know what changed. Last year I used to hit it at the donut shop, but now I'm hitting it all the way back at the corner. And I think and I don't know why, maybe Mountainville changed their time zone or their time start, I'm not sure, but having that connectivity, I think will decrease traffic congestion. It's not gonna, be a great thing for people on Ranch Road, generally speaking, but that will get, instead of going to the roundabout and going west to the elementary and middle, it's gonna free it up. I think from a safety perspective, also the trail, the connectivity of that, if you want to go from there up to Alpine, currently, if you're on 800 South, you're on that main road. And so being able to create some connectivity with trails or roads that are off of that certainly would be a beneficial thing. And the park itself, so there's not much we can do as far as the park here. I mean, as far as this easement goes with the water district. And so we've, part of the PRD would be to have that be given to the city and as a park. So the benefit would be that the park would be run by the city. It'd be just another open space for the city to do with that as you'd like.
Has the city expressed interest in owning another park? I know that owning parks aren't really something the city loves all that well.
We haven't had that conversation.
Okay.
Generally speaking,
It actually costs money for the city to run a park.
Yeah, when the cities ask for open space,
But open
part
space is
of our translation of that is, well, we are happy to create it, happy to develop it, happy to provide it. Who wants to own it? We're very open to that. We're not necessarily trying to say, hey, city, here's yours. Good luck. It's really about what does the city want, and I haven't heard what the city wants.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the last thing, I think, from a development perspective, the noise really is a problem. Like when you talk about a white noise, like someone needs to create that, which would be nice.
I know.
I heard
Somebody's got to come up with that idea. Put along the freeway some invisible white noise fence.
That would be great. In lieu of that, there's
give me a
commercial
commission.
buildings. In lieu of not having that, the invention that you're going to make money on someday, we build buildings that create that buffer and insulate that noise from that road, because at that elevation, it hits right in the heart of anything that would be residential to the west of it. So creating that buffer, and even though, I don't know how long ago the general plan was, 15, 20 years ago, they could see the continuity of that business coming south, like business commercial coming south. And we were trying to make it fit with what the city would like and what would make sense, the connectivity with trails, roads, the connectivity with business, commercial, and then of course, making it work from a development perspective, something that would be beneficial to the city.
Yeah. Do you have any other proposed ideas, or would you guys be open to coming back with, here's a few other options? I think we've heard quite a bit here about the concern about the density of that senior housing, about the view being there's not really any view corridor between these businesses, because you're going to run right into that. So you lose the view corridor going west. So I don't know, that you don't have to answer right now, but possibly some openness to something different there, or something much less in a density, or the half acre to acre lots, or things like that. So
yeah, do we have a minute more to maybe
Sure.
talk about a few other?
Sure. Yeah, we've got just a few more. I think we'll spend just a little bit more time on this, then we'll move to our other items for tonight, because we're obviously not prepared, if you guys agree, to make any kind of a recommendation here. So
No, I think that's healthy. Some of the comments that were made tonight from the public, very reasonable, very rational. Appreciate it. It actually helps us help the city meet some of the concerns, right? So thank you for addressing a lot of those. Some of the things that maybe weren't entirely clear was we happen to be on the best side of that curve. It doesn't make it the best scenario, but we're on the outside curve. Being on the outside curve, we have better sight lines. Sight lines are a thing that traffic engineers use to look both right and left.
Yep.
Thankfully, we have very long sight lines. That's a subtle
versus the other
positive.
side of the road, which has the very
inside
short,
curve
that's
would be
the concern.
more potential stressful. The topography, absolutely. There is an interesting elevation change from the highway down to the property, and they would have to be mitigated naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something that we would have to do. And part of that would actually bring up the traffic to level, which
Mm-hmm.
is really nice to allow people to be able to see both ways without having a bumper or the
Right.
front of the hood in the way.
Mhm.
Generally, that's city requirements, and
Yeah.
civil engineering design generally force that. We have talked to one of the neighbors to the north. I mentioned that in my opening comments. It was the Harris.
Mhm.
It's always hard to speak for other people. They have their opinions can change.
Sure.
At the time when Jared and I were there
Mhm.
talking to him, he mentioned that he bought the property to be a part of the subdivision someday. He may have changed his opinion by that
Mhm.
point, and that was like a month ago,
Mhm.
maybe 3 weeks ago. And ultimately, we looked at it and said, well, we're not trying to put a road in front of everybody's houses just for the
Mhm.
sake of putting a road. It was mainly because there was 2 driveways side by side,
Mhm.
and obviously their property is their property. We're not wanting to encroach on that.
Mhm.
And we fully would want to support the neighbor. If the neighbor, be it Harris or where the very first email was read,
Yeah, I can't remember their name.
100% makes sense.
And I know them. Who is it?
Brent Bolter.
Voltor.
Yeah,
Voltor.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Naturally, the proposed senior housing look,
Mhm.
someone asked about that. I
Mhm.
agree. It would be nice to bring back some exhibits, just like we did on the commercial building,
Mhm.
to kind of show that.
Mhm.
We would happily come back showing a
Mhm.
landscaped version. That'd be
Mhm.
really helpful. Real quick, there was another important detail. That park ultimately is our open space
Mhm.
for the entire development.
Mhm.
So if we're talking about senior housing, there's a just shy of 3 acre park, which is humongous.
Mhm.
Maybe that's inappropriate. Maybe that gathering place isn't the place that the
Mhm.
city would like to see. Maybe better connectivity to it, maybe a nicer way to get to it would be a
Mhm.
better design. I think that's some great comments from the,
Mhm. As well as if it's the cities,
right, it's not
you
the
know,
same thing.
things like that. Yeah, then.
And since
Yeah.
cities love to operate
Yeah.
parks, maybe we can
Mhm.
provide a.
Yeah, so some
Yeah,
thoughts around
there are
that.
trade-offs with that, and I guess that's the, do we want the public using it? And based on the city's comments, it's yes.
Mhm.
So if it's a private park, I think
Mhm.
there's a trade-off there that I'm not sure if the city's terribly
Or
excited
a
about.
combination, you know,
Right.
the open space
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily, you may need some open space inside of your development there.
Yeah,
Where, again,
Yeah.
parking has been a huge issue, as you could see, and that's been one of the main issues with any kind of the senior developments is visitor parking.
Yeah.
So, because then it just flows out onto the street and affects all the
Yeah.
homes who have
yeah,
their nice half-acre lots that we're trying to blend into a residence.
Well,
right.
but there's also the issue of parking for the park.
Right.
right.
That we'd have, right? And
Yeah.
I'm a little worried that you were gonna run into a problem with the water district not wanting to build anything across that easement,
Right.
Which
right?
they already have.
Which would mean that,
Mhm.
you know, the option of, if you move the road north, so to speak, to try to get around it, would leave, you know, Alpine with a problem with not being able to cross over to put a parking lot or something
Yeah.
in the park,
Yeah.
right? So anybody who was using the
Yeah.
park would be forced out on the road, right?
Which I think is part of the
Yeah,
big
it
challenge
would.
right now.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's interested in not
along.
providing parking for the park.
Yeah.
And I think that very interesting nuance with the water district. We thankfully have a wonderful relationship with Sandy. We're hoping to come back with something that makes that all very possible.
Mhm.
Maybe not, it may not be feasible.
So, yeah.
My final comment is this. Thank you so much for your
Mhm.
feedback tonight. It's been very helpful from the public as well as your comments and staff.
Mhm.
And I think we can provide more clarity going forward.
Did you have any guidance for us on how affordable this housing is?
Regarding the price point on the senior housing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Generally speaking, property is really expensive in Alpine, no matter what you do with it. And
Yeah.
ultimately, you know, we're looking at each one of these, we'll call them townhomes, or they're like twin homes, right? They're like 2 units side by side. Each side of those is about a $200,000 lot. So extrapolate that at,
What
another
square
six-
footage are you thinking?
about 2,000 square feet.
Okay, so similar to what's being built here.
That's right.
So in other words,
Yeah.
take your.
So will you
and
be
so-
developing just the lots, or will you be doing the?
Our intent is to
Building.
actually build the
Mhm.
subdivision and then build the units. The single family houses probably would be, probably not.
Yeah.
We definitely would be a part of that process, but ultimately it'd be like custom homes.
Yeah, the challenge with it, of course, is I mean, how do you dictate what the market is? The market is
Yeah.
what it
Yeah,
could sell
no, you
for,
can't
the
do it.
market is what you could sell it
That's what I'm
for. You know,
saying,
it's
yeah.
just, I mean, we've talked about to city council members about affordable housing, but
Mhm.
it's not something that the cities
You can't control
can't do
with.
that.
I
So
understand.
it you know, the
Yeah,
most
yeah, the
affordable
stu-
thing would be senior housing.
The city is still subject to federal guidance and regulations that will start negatively
Yeah,
impacting
and
us
state,
if we
yeah.
don't have something to offer.
Yeah.
Can I make one more comment? I know I said I was gonna conclude. This is important, has to do with the traffic.
Mhm.
We asked UDOT about roundabouts. We've had a
Mhm.
couple people comment on that.
Mhm.
Two things. UDOT doesn't allow roundabouts.
On
as
a
you know.
highway.
And they said, and again, what Alpine City wants to do is a different question. But they said, if Alpine wants a roundabout, we would happily support that if Alpine wants to own the road, which ultimately, from the city's point of view, could be, maybe could be a way to calm the traffic down a little bit.
Mhm.
A roundabout definitely would do that. It would allow the city to control their access differently than they do today. Currently, as staff has already said, Alpine doesn't control
controls
their
it.
main artery to the
Right.
city, right? And ultimately, that would provide some interesting new tools for the city. We don't know where that stands, but we asked UDOT about that. We've definitely covered that question. We'd love to continue that conversation if that adds to the positive side of the equation. So,
All right.
did we answer your questions? Did we?
I
help
think
a
so.
little bit?
I don't think we
Okay.
have any other questions, so thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
I think the question that we need to have more research on from the city is, what is the benefit to the citizens? And do we need to, is the city in need of more senior housing? What's the benefit to the citizens? Bringing in some commercial could definitely have some tax benefit. What's the benefit to having senior housing?
So, I mean, and in general, we have generally been pretty resistant to changing zoning.
Yep.
And so, and I kind of feel that sometimes like, it's like, oh, well, we would love to change the zoning in the southwest corner, so.
Yeah, right.
Which is where I live, so I'd rather not.
Yeah, right, yeah. exactly.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
people
I
there.
kind of agree. I'm looking for that compelling reason
Mhm,
to go
right.
and change a zoning thing. I think we need to get a better handle on what our commercial vacancy rate is now.
Well, and is that,
within the city.
yeah, that's true. There's a
Yeah.
point for that for us. That can change. And you say, why you have things, well, personally, like the only reason I go to the dentist is because it's so close to my house, I can actually get there and back. If I had to drive 30 minutes, I probably wouldn't go. But there are services that citizens of Alpine do use, dental and doctor and, some things that are in town that are definitely useful and of benefit to the citizens.
I don't know how many
but I
more
don't know how
vets
many
we
more.
need though, and-
I don't know, we're gonna hear from one of the vets.
What they're
you know,
showcasing
whatever.
here though is a different class of building than
It
we
is.
really have in the city.
Yeah.
And I think there's all kinds of demand for that kind of product.
Mhm.
And
what's the tax revenue of that?
Oh,
Those businesses?
it's
Right.
about 2 times what the residential
Mhm.
revenue base would generate.
Yeah, but what I would like to see from the city maybe is a projection into the future. At what point, if the city was built out, what would have to happen? Like if we had the city built out, what would have to happen to the taxes? And I think that would be really great for the citizens to see, so we knew like, if we don't bring in any commercial, then what will happen to our taxes? This gentleman right here, did you want to make a comment? Oh, okay. After the meeting, thank you. Okay, that'll be great. So, Clark, if you want to come up to the mic, I'll let you make one more comment here.
Just ask who pays for the bridge?
Okay,
Yes, okay, it's a good question.
good question. So, yeah, if there is additional, that's negotiated between the city and the developer, typically the developer. But
That's the benefit to the city.
that's a really good point. Any type of infrastructure to the city is a benefit to the city for roads, changes to roads, things like that. So,
Yeah. I
okay.
mean, I have to admit, I'm torn on the commercial development because I'm not sure if Alpine, I'd like to get a better idea of what we would think that commercial would be, right? However, on the other hand, if it's all residential, I worry that what we end up with is subdivisions with just fences towards the road,
Right.
right? And that
And-
doesn't help with
Ye-
looking down and out also,
Right.
right?
And really not that, not as desirable to have a home against a busy road.
Not, right.
So I
right.
think if we were ever to bring in any more commercial against the busy road is the place for it.
Along those lines, I really think, especially this corner
Yeah.
lot in the south end of the project,
The two circles,
it seems to me that makes
Yeah.
so much more sense to go commercial.
and well, and the shape of those lots, you know, especially this one on the west side, it doesn't look very realistic there. And anyway, so that looks like it would need something too, but I think we've had some great input tonight. I think we're definitely nowhere ready to make any kind of a recommendation.
Well, we need to give some guidance to them though.
Well, what they're going to do is go to city council next week regardless.
So, well, I mean, what we can do
Our
is,
motion would be
yeah,
to
so
table, to recommend, or to,
Or not recommend.
or not recommend. Right.
what we'll do is we'll take this would go to, so regardless of what your decision is, you may make a decision. You may have suggestions or feedback inside that
Mhm.
decision. We would like to take it next week to city council and say, hey, this is the results of the public hearing. These were the concerns.
Right.
These were the positive things that came out of it. This is kind of where the planning commission is at on this item. And so, you know, I mean, if you can make a motion that gives the council some feedback, that might be a good thing. But yeah,
But it doesn't
we
need
do
to be
want
an
to take
approval
it
or
there
rejection.
so that the city council kind of has an idea of what happened in this meeting tonight.
Right. So a motion would be either a recommendation to move forward, or a recommendation against, or a recommendation to table till we gather more information. If we did that, are you saying inside the recommendation to list the things that we thought were good and the things that we thought
I
were
think-
bad? Or could we create a summary outside of the motion for them?
I mean, I think if you were to table it, you could say we want to table it because we have concerns about A, B, C, X,
Okay.
Y, Z.
Okay,
And
and we
would
want
like to
more
see-
information.
For
along those-
example, maybe we want to see renderings of what the senior housing would look like, or,
Mhm,
you know, there could be a number of other things that you.
mhm.
that
But if we table it, it doesn't go to city council.
It still will.
We can discuss it as an informational
Right.
only thing, so the city council would not be able to render any decision.
Right. But we can't really
an
recommend it
informational
because
thing.
we don't have concepts.
There's no way to
approve
recommend
together.
it at this
Right,
point.
exactly, because
So
it
we
has
would
to
have
be
to
part
table
of
it.
that. So
Yeah.
I think tabling is really the only choice, but the question is,
Or not recommending it based on that.
or not
Yeah, I
recommending
mean, you
it.
could
Yeah,
recommend to deny the
Right.
current.
the current,
Yeah.
the
Okay,
current
right, the
proposal.
Yeah, I think that's more
proposed,
appropriate.
Right.
That's more
change in
tangible.
zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
As,
Yeah.
as it stands now. I
Right.
mean, For those exact same reasons.
Yes,
right, you
exactly.
could
And
list
then,
the
because they're gonna have to
reasons,
come back with another proposal anyway.
Well, Boston looks a
I
little
mean,
uncomfortable over there,
Mhm.
so.
City
Yeah,
council
I
can
would
do what they
say,
want
I
with it.
think the wise way, if you're at least, if there's any interest or appetite in this, you want to table it. If you just think this is the worst idea ever and you don't want to ever see anything like this, then you deny this concept.
Mm-hmm.
If you think this concept has no merit, then you deny it. If you think there could be something there, you table it. That's what I think.
Okay, that's your good advice. We can't take any more comment right now, but I do appreciate having us keep in mind the fact that we could do no zone change whatsoever is an option as well.
Right.
So, and I can't make any motions, so we need someone here from the council. Go ahead and take your time to think about what kind of a motion that you would want to make based off of the points we brought out, of what further information would we want, if you want to see it at all, if you want to see something that doesn't include senior housing, if you want to see something that, you know, whatever thoughts. So we'll give you guys a minute. This is a harder than typical motion to make, so. Anything would also need to show have the trail committee involved to show the connectivity that's.
And we
always
do
a
kind of
given.
have a model motion in the packet that kind of gives maybe
Mhm.
some starting points to
Mhm.
making a motion.
So I mean, my feeling is that I would say that I want to deny the motion. Based on that we don't have a concept plan that is feasible, in my opinion, at this point.
Well, if you want to make a motion, you
Okay,
can.
so I motion that we deny the proposal based on the fact that we do not have a workable plan at this time.
Okay, we have a motion by Ethan Allen.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Ed. Do you, discussion, whoops, sorry, my microphone, I turned it off. Discussion on the motion, I would say that doesn't give the council any direction, but go ahead.
If I may, so I want to point out the fact that tonight we're not necessarily, the whole point of this meeting was not to approve a concept plan, but
Right.
more, are we looking to rezone this? So that's really the question is, should this be rezoned? And then those other details
And I could
be worked out at a later.
Right, and
date.
I would certainly consider a zone change. Because I don't know that 1 acre is completely possible. But that, we're talking about a pretty radical zone change at this point, and I don't see how I could approve it.
Okay, let's leave that motion on the table here for a minute. Are you guys interested in voting on that motion or on having a second motion proposed?
Well, I don't mind the project in its entirety. So if denying it really takes it out of consideration,
another motion.
then I would rather make a motion that we table the request of a change of zone for the property located at 542 South Alpine Highway until such time that a change of zone and subsequent overlays can be presented at the same time as a major subdivision concept plan. And concurrent with that submission, a traffic study be included showing the impact of both current and proposed traffic with the development. And that the other issues associated with the Metropolitan Water District be fully vetted with documentation of approval and more refined concept plan with respect to road alignments, right-of-way widths, and UDOT approvals.
Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second for that motion? I can't second motions, can I? I don't think I can.
I think you can.
Okay,
I think you're
I'll
different. Yeah,
I'll
you're not-
second.
You're not like the mayor, you actually have. the
Well, I
power
do
to-
vote. I just can't make a motion, so I wasn't sure if I could second a motion. You think I can?
I'm actually not positive.
Jed, do you know if I can second a
You know,
motion?
Jed?
I don't have a clue.
You're no help. I've never had that problem. Everybody's always been vocal enough.
Yeah, shoot.
I'll look it up really quick. Yeah,
Let's see if we can
actually,
figure that
can
out
you
here.
just look really quickly? Okay, for now, I'm gonna second the motion so that we can discuss it. So,
We had a second on the prior motion.
Right, we
Do a vote.
right, because you put a motion on top of that. So what you do is you stack your motions and then you vote on them in a backward motion. So if your motion doesn't pass, then it reverts to his motion. And if his doesn't pass, then you need a new motion. But you can go 3 deep on motions. So, so I just wanted to review the motion that you made, which was that we table it until we have more information on what the concept is, and that they would have to come forward with the traffic study and the more information from the water district And what was the other thing that you mentioned? We don't have Marla here to help us out.
It showed more
Tax.
definition on the road alignments.
Road
Right
alignments.
now, they're,
Mhm.
they don't have specifications, but
Mhm,
it's clear that the roads aren't wide enough.
mhm. And did you mention tax benefit to the city?
I didn't, but
Okay.
we can add that if you'd like.
So one motion is to deny it until it comes back with. Yours was to deny it unless, until
we
it
get a
comes back
proposal
with
that
a
is more amenable to the.
more
county-
amenable.
to us, yeah.
And his is basically to
To
table
table
it
it.
until they come back with something
Right.
more amenable.
Yeah.
So, any other motions? Does anyone else want to make a
No, I'm not
motion?
gonna make a motion.
Not gonna make a motion,
I
okay.
don't wanna stack another motion.
Oh, come on.
It's only 4 of it, 4 or 5, sorry, Troy. Where-
We're not gonna get to a final
I
decision
looked at
anyway.
the empty chair. Yeah.
Yes, he did have to leave the meeting early,
Right.
so he'll
Right,
rejoin
so-
us if he can.
So
So, okay, so then we
I
need
guess
to,
my biggest problem, I
Mhm.
mean, in looking at this, is
Mhm.
I'm just worried about the density
Yeah.
of taking this and putting 76 units.
I agree.
You know, mixed use
But-
between
but
the
that's why
senior
we-
housing and
That's why we
whatever.
wait for the concept plan to come. in,
Yeah,
so
well,
that
but
we
I'm
have
worried
everything.
about tabling seems to give us an indication that we wanna go along
Mm-hmm.
with that, and I'm not sure I wanna go along with that. I wanna
Mhm.
take another crack. I think 76 units there is too many
Mhm.
to be
57.
put on that land.
57.
57.
Well, he's counting the,
57 plus the
Plus the
19
19 houses.
or whatever it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
right, the
Yeah.
19 single-family lots to go
Right.
on there, right?
Right.
So I mean, we're taking a space that we originally zoned, not we. you
yes,
know,
but the city has
did,
zoned.
that zone that would probably support in the teens of housing, and we're
Mhm.
putting now 76 units on
Right.
there. I'm not so sure I'm
Mhm.
really happy just to say we're gonna table it and see what they come back with. I think it's a major issue that I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
why that's why I lean towards denying it.
okay. So we can vote on your motion, or you can withdraw your motion. Should we vote on, would you like to have your motion voted on?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna vote on the motion of tabling it. Could we amend your motion to say that consideration is given for less density? Would you accept that? Okay, and would you accept the change that more information is given to the tax benefit to the city?
Yes.
Okay, so if we add those two things to the table, to the motion to table it, that consideration is given for a reduction of density, that this basically appears to have more higher density than we have appetite for, at least at a bare minimum. So let's go ahead and vote on that then. Okay, so all those in favor of tabling the motion, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Those who are opposed to tabling it, say nay.
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 Okay, and Troy is not here, so we have 2 ayes and 2 nays.
Motion does not pass.
So the motion does not
Motion
pass. So then we
Yeah,
revert
majority.
to,
But then the other one won't pass that.
and then you have to do another motion.
But we should officially vote on.
Yes, we
Details,
need to.
right?
Yeah, we
need
need
to do
some
that,
kind of
right?
motion. We need.
We need a
something to
motion.
Pass though.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Okay.
We need another planning commission member here and people not out of town.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Ethan's motion now. Do we want to modify, would there be any modification to Ethan's motion that would make it more palatable? So currently you just have your motion as that we deny until they come back with a further built out concept.
Correct.
If he added all of the subpoints that we had,
Mhm.
that I had. I could go
Then
with
it's
that.
the same thing. Mhm. Okay, so Ethan, would you be willing to amend your motion to include the points that John had in his motion, which were, to summarize, that they come back with or that they could reapply with a further developed concept plan, the traffic and road alignment issues being addressed, the lower density option, the information from the city on tax benefits to the city, and the traffic study. Did I cover all of them?
And the,
No water.
And the,
Water.
and the information from the water district.
and you
Yeah.
And,
UDOT.
yeah, and UDOT on the road alignment.
So, I mean, I think I would be amenable to that. I don't think, I
Okay.
mean, basically, you're saying what I'm saying anyway. We're
Right.
saying
But he's
this
just
isn't being
outlining it,
approved.
so you
We're
have
outlining that
actual
there has to
direction.
be, there has to be
Okay.
a new plan.
Yeah, and
And that-
Barbara will
and-
have to figure out.
Okay.
what,
And in no way does that obligate us to that new plan. We are just saying we would need a new plan.
Okay. Okay, so
With that amendment.
with that
Yes.
amendment, did the person who seconded it agree to those
Yes.
changes as well?
Yes.
And you agree with those changes? Okay. So all those in favor of that recommendation, or the recommendation, the motion, that in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that has all four. And tell Marla to give me a call if she wants some help.
Yeah, she might need
probably
some help on
will.
that one.
Okay, so,
probably-
okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay, and if anyone wants to leave, you're welcome to. Like I said, if you want to chat, please go all the way out to the door. So, and with that, we'll move on to the second item on our agenda, which is the site plan for the Alpine Animal Clinic addition. I believe they were in before and we talked about that. And so they're back with their site plan. So are you going to introduce that, Austin?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
Okay.
introduce that. Let me just get their site plan. Here we go. Okay, so this is for the Alpine Animal Hospital, Alpine Animal Clinic. I'm not sure if it's, what's the official
I
name?
thought Alpine
Hospital?
Animal Clinic, is that hospital?
Okay,
That's what I thought.
It's just that the
Alpine
plans say
Animal
what-
Hospital.
Yeah, okay, so it's the Alpine Animal Hospital's
That's all right.
official name.
Mhm.
424 South Alpine Highway, currently located in the business commercial zone. The property is 1.01 acres. And they're proposing an addition onto this building. It would put the total square footage close to approximately 5,800 square feet. And so, with regards to a site plan has to meet a series of requirements. And so first of those is, does it meet the current setbacks for the zone? Staff looked at this, they're proposing a 10.5-foot easement side setback on the northwest side there, which is the closest one. Maybe I'll zoom in on that. So if you'll all, I don't know if some of you were on the planning commission, but a few years ago, there was a dog boarding facility. It was the Alpine Animal Lodge that was approved as a separate
Didn't we give a
building.
variance?
I thought we approved one for this, current business to,
Yeah, it was for this current business. So at the
For
time, they were
dog-
gonna
for
build a
boarding.
but
second
it was for boarding. It was a
accessory
second
building.
house. Yeah, it was, a-
Build another building.
It was a second building.
Right.
For the purpose of
Okay.
boarding dogs.
so this is a separate proposal.
So that plan has, to kind of give some history on it, that
Uh-huh.
plan has been kind of abandoned.
Okay,
There's been a change of plans and now
Okay.
they are proposing, instead of building a second building, they're actually just deciding we'd rather add on to our existing building
Mhm.
to increase our current services.
but so it's not for the use of boarding, just for the use of the
This would
increased
be a
services.
full veterinary services.
Okay.
So there would be
Okay.
exam
no boarding.
rooms, there would
Right.
be, all of the facilities that you currently see in the existing
Right.
hospital would be
Expanded.
expanded.
And they do need more space. I bring my dogs down there and it's too small for all the demand.
So there's a need for it, obviously, that's why they're wanting to do this.
Mhm.
And so the setbacks do meet our standard, our minimum is 10 feet, and this is at 10.5 feet. So previously, we had to grant them an exception to have it closer.
Right,
No longer, exception is no longer necessary. Off-street parking. So according to our ordinance, they would have to have 20 off-street parking spaces based on the use of the building.
Mhm.
and the given square footage. They actually have 30 total parking stalls proposed on this site plan. And so 2 of those being ADA accessible stalls. So they do exceed our off-street parking requirements, which is we see as a good thing. Screening, so screening requirement, we do require some kind of screening in between a residential property and a business property. Well, there are no bordering residential properties, so we don't have to worry about that issue. Landscaping, as we mentioned in the previous item, 20% is our standard. They have 53% landscaping even after doing this addition. So landscaping is not a concern. Trash storage on this premises, they are proposing to put in a fenced in enclosure. It'd be a vinyl fence, and inside there they would have a trash enclosure. So that's part of this site plan, which meets our requirements. The height of the building would be 20 feet 4 inches. They could actually go all the way up to 34 feet. So it's well under our height restriction requirement. And finally, we do have our design requirements, being that this is in the Gateway Historic Zone. Over here on this easel over here, you'll see a sample of the materials that they're proposing. So that blue is, and you may want to get out of your seats and go look at that.
Yeah.
And then they have a sample of the siding, which is on that little table there. And it's the, is it the slate gray? Is that the color?
Turn it around. Thank you.
Maybe we can pass that little sample, that siding.
That card around,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're proposing that it's blue?
So the current building is blue.
Yeah.
And so they just want to keep the current look of the building. So
Now, I know this is an
Is
addition,
it that one?
not a new building. But that doesn't really go
Doesn't
with
match.
his Gateway Historic District.
yeah, I mean, our Gateway Historic Zone, has
You know
a
what I mean?
look, which, I mean.
So I'm wondering if they would be open to color changes. Well, not that, I mean, I think that's something we can consider. New housing or new buildings, 100% have to comply. In
Right.
addition, this is a significant change to an existing building. And so,
I mean, one of the things to point out here is that the current building does have brick on it, which is, something that we encourage in our
Yes,
business
it is.
commercial zone.
But-
And
I
so
noticed they did not,
in the rendering here, they
they did
only
not
show it on
include
the,
the brick.
yeah.
Right,
Around the
right.
extension of the building, which I
Yeah.
thought was.
well, and
Interesting.
this siding that we're looking at, is this just for quality, not color?
So the color is that up on the top, it's the third one over.
This right here,
Yeah,
right?
gray, that gray color, that would be the color and that would be the
So
material.
what is
That's
the
not that
blue?
color.
What is the blue then?
So if you look at the rendering here,
Oh, there's two.
you'll see
blues.
there's the blue is, the dark blue is, I believe, is on top, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And then
Mhm.
down below would be the gray material.
Right. Where in the other building they have brick,
Correct.
Only a wainscot brick,
Right.
right?
but still a brick.
Yes, it is, yeah. So, yeah. Okay, anyway, go ahead and finish, then we can add our comments about
Okay.
the proposed.
That's all I have from the planning and zoning standpoint. I think Jed had some additional comments
Okay.
on the lighting and parking, lighting and stuff like that.
Jen?
My comments are fairly quick and simple on this one. We've seen this site plan before, and in terms of engineering, not a lot has changed from their previous proposal.
Mhm.
Beyond the other things that Austin's usually checking for the off-street parking ordinance, engineering, we check for the other simple things like paved surface, wheel stops or curbs, striping, size of parking stalls, etc. All of those things appear to meet ordinance. They do have a lighting plan. They are proposing 5 new lights for their new parking area. All the lights are shining downward and not upward or outward. So that plan appears to meet the ordinance. As far as utilities go, the buildings would be served by the existing services that are already serving the existing building. And then they are proposing a new stormwater retention pond on that kind of northwest side there, which also meets our ordinances and standards. So pretty low key from the engineering side of things. It all appears to meet ordinance.
If you scroll up on this where you're at, Austin, where is kind of the open area right now? You know, where the snow cone shack used to be and their sign is.
It's down there.
It's actually down.
Oh,
Can
it's
you-
right down that area. Yeah, existing snow cone shop.
It's gone now.
Right.
So is all that grassy area there on the side of the building all staying?
Yes, yeah, so the southwest, so in this area over here, kind of where my mouse is,
Right,
that's
so
gonna
the
remain grassy
east,
area
isn't it?
with, and there's some large trees in there too.
Southeast,
The south, yeah, no, the southwest,
southwest is
Or,
where you're the
I
building,
guess
isn't
south.
it?
It's,
this area right here.
yeah.
That is,
Southeast.
is that southeast? Okay, I was gonna say, I'm really confused if that's not it. So to the non-street side of the building, which is, I think, west, is where they're proposed to building. Okay.
So
Yeah.
now.
Anyway, street side, whichever way, we've got this north.
Yeah.
North pointing,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I
And
think the
anyway.
right-hand side is the east
okay,
of the drawing.
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, but I can tell where we're at now.
Yeah.
But I just wondered if anything was going out into that area. It's all still behind the existing building from the street view.
Yeah, I mean, to better explain what's going on, so up here, they've had like, there was like an old garage structure up here
Right.
once upon a time.
Right.
So that would be taken out
Mhm.
and then this parking would be expanded
Okay.
to the north.
Right. So Jed, I have a question. When you talked about the lighting is now compliant with the new ordinances associated with like dark sky compliance?
We actually don't have any ordinances that specifically say they have to be dark sky compliant.
That did never pass.
Um,
We talked about proposing
well-
that where they had to shine down.
we actually did pass, you know what, you actually bring up a great point. Okay, so we did pass new standards for
Yeah.
our
Right.
street lights.
Yes.
And so,
I was gonna say, I thought we did that.
yeah,
Rather
what
than
they're
nothing.
showing here, they did give a photometric plan, which does meet those requirements. So we probably do need to request them to follow our just standard Alpine City detail for their lighting plan.
Right.
Their photometric alludes towards it, but I did not see a light detail showing the exact light in their plans now that you bring that up. So we do need to we need to request that they do that.
Okay. Is this existing snow cone shop, is that erroneous, or does that mean they intend to lease that spot out again to someone else?
I think it's just a placeholder from what was previously there. It's a concrete pad right now. And the last I heard, Dr. Kendig didn't have any interest in having a snow cone shack
Okay.
there.
It was so friendly to his property. Climbing all over the sign, you don't want that? Okay, what else do we need to know about this? Anything else?
I think those are the highlights that
I mean,
we
I-
got from staff.
Yeah, seems pretty
So, yeah,
straightforward.
okay. So my first comment is that I think the exterior needs to blend in with the gateway guidelines. And which would be, you know, the more earthy to red color tones, all right, and we can pull that up and look at it, but I would want to know if there was something that we could do that, you know, changes the look of this rather from, yeah, because we're, you know, this is, here's the chance to improve the Gateway Historic District here, and I don't think it would, I think it could be done differently without extreme, well, I mean, I guess the cost is up to the builder to propose what they want, but in my opinion, this doesn't fit the Gateway Historic District plans.
So I mean, when I look at it, the change from having it half brick and then not brick is the biggest concern.
Mhm.
I agree.
Because that's like, it's an obvious add-on and.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with the addition that if you just leave the existing building alone.
Or if you can
and
change that.
Right, I mean, changing the colors and different things on the extension might actually not work very well.
Well, the color of brick doesn't, I mean, I think the whole thing, it could extend the brick or add some stone or change the coloring or do something with it that is in line with the other things that are happening in the area. I think that needs to be done.
Yeah, but I would say other than that, I don't have a problem with it.
No, I think the site and everything is great, but I
Yeah.
think the finishing on the building needs to be looked at and looked through the Gateway Historic guidelines and then come back with a proposal of some different finishings on the.
So we do
outside
have the
building.
builder here tonight, and
Mhm.
you may want to invite him up to
Sure, if
comment
the
on
builder
that.
would like to come forward and make any kind of comments, that'd be great. And just say your name and address and,
My name is Aaron Haywood. I live in Spanish Fork,
okay,
so I don't know if you need my address.
now, fine, I think,
Great, yeah, I've just been making notes of your guys' comments.
Okay.
As we're going through, and I definitely understand the concerns about
Mhm.
wanting to keep with the historic code. I
Okay.
did, back when I was in high school and graduated, I did architectural renderings for Provo City to keep
Uh-huh.
things with this historic.
okay, so
district.
you know where we're coming
So I
from.
understand, and right now his current building has that, it's not quite the shade of the blue. but
Yeah.
I did my best to
Right.
match it and bring it in, but he's got that batten board up above, made out of that hardy with that, and then he's got that gray siding, it's
Yeah.
insulated.
Right.
I mean, he is open to these
Okay.
changes and to
Yeah,
these
I
things.
think he's got it's a nice location, it's a nice addition to the community. But as we modify these older buildings, we want to bring it in so we have some kind of continuity as you come into the city and it looks like it kind of blends together and.
Yeah, I can
So-
understand that, and I can present that back to him and say, hey,
Okay.
they would like to see you potentially change these colors. I know that he's invested a lot of money into the existing building as it is,
Mhm.
and so it might be a little bit hard to
Yeah.
swallow, but we can
He's
look
got a
into it.
great business going.
If it would be acceptable, I mean, keeping the brick, maybe keeping that gray siding and then maybe changing up that blue might be a good rendition, because that is just painted. So that does make it a
Yeah.
lot more affordable, and then
Yeah.
moving forward. I have brought in another rendering, and I think that third drawing is attached with this other section, but I can pass this out to you guys really
Okay.
quick. So currently,
That's great.
currently the building has a fence that starts right after that main entrance.
Mhm.
So it's gated in that fence, and that
Mhm.
fence is intended to stay there, which is why we didn't show
Mhm.
putting the brick wainscot. We're trying to help the owner keep building affordable, as mentioned
Mhm.
before, building has skyrocketed
Mhm.
due to price increases
Right,
and everything.
sure.
So if we need to look at doing the wainscot, I'm not against presenting that back to the owner and seeing, hey, they would like this to be more historic, but
Mhm.
from doing, what we'd be doing is just continuing that.
Is that fence
6 foot-
existing? There's just a chain link
Correct.
fence
If
there?
there's just a privacy, I have a picture of it if you'd like.
Yeah,
to see
I'm
it.
trying to envision what that
Not a
looks
problem.
like right
I
now.
took a picture of that fence.
Is it
He's just got that 6 foot
Uh-huh,
privacy fence. The
uh-huh.
objective is to just keep that privacy fence, to keep that area private for
Mhm.
his practice and what with this addition. So the objective is just to keep that building.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And the fence doesn't really do him any benefit though
It just
with
keeps his
that
building
there.
private.
Right, I mean,
Just
right
leave it.
now it's there because there's no building behind there and it's kind of an area where they can contain,
Yeah, right now it's not.
it's just a
It's
divider.
an eyesore.
Right,
So-
yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm just not
And the
sure
other thing
exactly
I-
what the benefit is. To me,
Sure.
taking the fence to the end of the building and having a more attractive building looking there would have a lot
More
more
attractive
visual
front.
appeal.
Okay.
Because I don't see that that fence benefits him in any way. Like you said, there's no need for his building to be private. There's no entrance or anything there. Now, if that was like necessary for a dog run or something, but to me, I think it would be much more appealing from the street view and from the parking lot view if that fence ended at the end of the building and that he actually finished the front of the building like a.
So, yeah, as I say, would it be
full
acceptable
facing.
if we did, cause the
Yeah.
other hard part will be matching that brick
Yeah,
and getting it similar to, I mean, I've done my.
it's hard to
I
match.
did these renderings with the
Mhm.
software that I have, and
Mhm.
I haven't done this stuff in a long
Yeah.
time, cause my architect is
Right.
gone.
Have they done anything, did you do anything in Provo as far as, you know, I know a lot of people are painting brick now, but making it in a way so that it looks aged or anything like that versus just the stark white, everybody painting their
No,
brick white.
I'm fairly confident we can find something that
Okay.
would be similar.
Mhm.
You could definitely tell that it's new, but I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't recommend, I mean, I'm a little old school. I don't recommend painting the brick.
Yeah,
think
I know.
that's
I don't either.
Such
but-
a waste of.
No,
I mean,
I
unless
agree,
it's,
but-
unless it's
Unless
just
there
an
was some,
ugly,
unless there was
it's
some
just an
way.
ugly brick and you're just like, yeah, let's cover that.
I have seen them do it so that though it looks aged, like European, where they've painted
Schmear.
parts. Yes,
Yeah, they
exactly.
could do like a
I've s-
stucco texture.
Yes,
kind of a
exactly. And I've
deal.
seen some
Yeah,
things like that done
seen-
to actually,
seen a little bit
you
of
know,
that.
make it look intentional.
Yeah.
So anyway, but obviously that's, you know, somebody else's specialty, but I just think that if
So we
we're
keep the curb
expanding this,
appeal.
yes, and if we're expanding this building, I think this is the perfect opportunity for him to really contribute to the community and make this something really nice that is, you know, something that adds to the community,
Okay.
visually as well as through his service, which I think I think he's got a great business going, and I think he's got a lot of people who go there and are happy to have him close by, so. The other thing I wanted to know is the landscaping, does it have a sprinkler system in it? Because it really falls apart there, and
I am not certain if it has a landscape.
maybe just ask
with
it
all
about
of
that,
those-
because,
I know that with all of the trees and the
Uh-huh.
coverage, that you can't get a lot of light in there, so
Yeah.
it's hard for vegetation to grow.
yeah,
So I mean, he could look into some options. That's not in our scope of work. We're
sure.
primarily
but,
looking
uh,
at.
I just
getting
was
him
wondering though,
built,
but
but-
we're using up a whole bunch more of that lot, so does the percentage of, you know, landscaping?
He
and
still has
things like that-
53%
Oh,
landscape.
he's good.
He's just not landscaping.
Well, right, that's, you know, but we also do that when we have businesses, you know, it needs to come in with kind of a proposal. I know it's not a new, but I would love to see some type of a proposal for, you know, that landscaped area, even if it's like bark in certain areas, so that it has a nice landscaping. Again, just kind of thinking of the appeal to the city visually for that corridor.
Yeah, I think his eventual goal is actually to put up a fence around the area and have it as a private walking area for his pets and for
Right.
for those owners, so
Yeah,
they can take their
which,
animal out in that area. And
Right.
I would think he'll probably cut down a few trees at that point and make.
and
some
it would
changes
probably
and have
still
better
need though
vegetation.
to keep some landscaping outside of that
Yeah.
fence so that there is landscaping along the
Yeah.
front.
The elevation is just really plain.
Yeah.
Is there any way to use decorative timber frames on that eave front?
These are just
Do
some
something with it.
suggestions to
In
come
the-
back with.
Which,
If you did something, you know, how they do the,
okay,
cross
right now
beams
it's batten board, so you can't
is
see.
there not an overhang here on the
On the front,
On the front, there's an overhang, but it is batten board, so it's
Mhm.
got, if you go to the elevation drawings that are in the, like, you can't judge by my architectural renderings. I threw this together because I couldn't get my architect to do
Okay.
anything.
so
But
is
if
this
you
what
look
he's
at-
saying it
if you
looks
look
like
at
right
that-
here?
Yeah.
Front elevation, it has that, there is a different detail, a different
Mhm.
texture to the building, giving it that accent, and I think you'd probably see that a little bit more with a different color paint, which I think I could get him to.
Yeah,
agree to.
it just needs to be dressed up. It just sort of looks like the least amount of effort possible to extend the building and with not really any architectural detail to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of roof that we're adding on.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's
So I
kind
would
of,
agree with
that's
that.
our feedback. what are we looking for a motion today?
Well, they're hoping to have this approved or recommended for approval to move on to city
Oh,
council.
okay, so I would recommend. we should have-
So waving his hand back there.
We are not having a public hearing, but if you want to come up and make a comment very quickly, you are welcome to. Come up and state your name, and anybody who comes to the meeting, I'm not going to turn you away if you
Since
can keep it short.
Since you've stayed here so long.
Yeah, really,
Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you.
Sure. Name and address.
I'm Gary Stredbeck. I'm one of the owners of the Art Center.
Oh, okay, great.
So my concern obviously with them is dogs right behind all of our wedding venue and
Mhm.
cleanup. They've done a great job so far.
Mhm.
I don't know if adding all of these dogs will make a difference, but hopefully they will.
Yeah.
They will keep up on it. And that's my biggest concern. I like the layout. I like
Mhm.
what they've done. I like where they are placing the building. I like the
Mhm.
parking. I like having that be the area that's still wooded behind kind of our reception area. So all of that I'm grateful.
Happy about.
My only comment
Mhm.
is, you know, just to make sure that it doesn't
Mhm.
become you know, we're serving food and everything right there on the opposite side of the
Right.
fence where this is. And I
Mhm.
just want them to, you know, hopefully keep
Right.
that up to where it doesn't smell. And that, you know,
Absolutely.
the more dogs that they have out there running, I just hope that they'll keep that up. That's my only
Absolutely.
concern. I like their plan. I like,
Okay.
they've been great neighbors and hope to continue to have them be good neighbors. And, but that was just my only
Great.
concern.
No, okay, good. And you know, stay in touch with the owner. I think direct communication would be best. We did look at this, I know, before to see exactly what part of the building was where. I actually think their change in plan will have less of an impact for you than their original
Yeah,
plan,
so-
so,
Yeah.
The hospital aspect of it is wonderful versus a big boarding, kid
Yeah.
boarding one.
right. And they're not typically in the evening doing surgery and having office hours,
Yeah,
so,
they've been great that way and I just hope that it'll continue.
Maintain.
And it'll work great
Okay.
for all of us.
great, thank you. Okay. Go ahead and come back
I
up.
don't know if you could see.
Yeah.
Part of the scope with changing it from the pole barn,
Mhm.
you know, what they were doing,
Mhm.
there was noise concern too, and I'm
Mhm.
glad to bring that up. We are looking at making sure that this building stays, you know, at or more efficient with keeping the decibel of the barking down for any of the animals that will be staying there overnight.
Mhm.
That's where Dr. Kendig has
Mhm.
left. He had to go take care of an animal that
Okay.
a catheter fell out, so he's tending
Okay.
to them, but the objective is to actually keep, you know, to keep down that noise. So that way you guys
So
aren't
this
having that
building
issue.
has the same features that the other had
It has
for,
the same features, it
Mhm.
has everything, and then some because of the way we're actually able to
Mhm.
insulate, and
Okay.
because it's standard construction,
Mhm.
whereas before they were doing a pole barn.
right, okay.
Can I ask one more question about the retention pond? Where will the drainage off the parking lot go? Because I know in some big storms and things, sometimes we get washed out on the backside of our building with stuff on that far
Uh-huh.
north corner. Is everything retained in that parking lot and come forward?
So everything off the parking lot will retain back into that corner, and then it's all retainage all back around the building, so you can see that dotted line.
Yeah, we kind of, can I ask you guys to speak into the microphone?
Sorry. Here, I'll show
You're
you.
welcome to speak, but speak into
So-
the microphone so that we
So
can
you'll
record.
come off the parking lot here, back behind our trash enclosure, there's retainage here, and then it's all along this area. So you'll have full retainage that we can hold. All existing water or anything that would flood us in. If we fill up that, we have a big problem.
That looks pretty good.
Okay.
Perfect. I was just curious because, yeah, we've had a couple times where there've been huge storms and it just floods across the back.
Yeah, so this will
So
be
looks more contained than what they've had before. So
yeah,
that's
this will
good.
be redone. We'll have it well vegetated and be able to help retain it.
And I'll speak to that too. They did provide calculations showing that retention pond is sized for a 100-year storm.
Okay, great.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about this for 101 years.
We hope.
Okay,
Are we ready?
anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? personally don't think we're ready to send this on the way it looks, but if there's a way of approving it. So are we at, what phase are we at here? We are,
This is here for approval, so, I
Okay.
mean, they've provided the sample materials, they
Okay,
provided
so, yeah.
renderings.
okay,
They are ready to go. If
Okay.
you don't like some of the architectural features,
We
maybe
need to have them
make a
come back.
motion that you add brick or something like that, and, so
I think we
that's
need
what I
to.
would recommend.
Mm,
This is approval, not recommended.
no. Yeah, exactly, so.
No, this is a recommendation. The city council has a final say on the architectural details and stuff like that, so you are making a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, you remember the fitness
we're
center,
gonna approve it, it's just-
Remember the what?
the fitness center, right?
Right, so make sure
Those are
that,
the
make
city
sure that you've
council,
considered
right?
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Let's be
Okay.
careful here.
Yep, well,
So, I mean, I think we should.
You wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
okay,
I move to recommend the site plan for the animal clinic addition be approved with the following conditions and changes. That the brick be extended to the end of the building, the fence be moved to the end of the building so that it meets more closely the historical guidelines in our historical district.
I'll second that.
are you going to recommend any color changes? Or no, just extended with the, you didn't mention any, you're good with it?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the color.
Hmm. Okay,
But if you do,
I do.
you do.
But that's okay, this goes to city council.
She wants the building painted red.
I want it painted, no, I want it to have a big Y on it, blue with a Y. You can do that for me and fly a flag too.
So what would you, I mean, I'm really not, I don't really care, is
I
really where
just,
I'm at on that.
I
But
just,
if you do,
well,
I would
it
be
does,
amenable to that.
it does not meet the
Historical
guidelines. It
guidelines.
does not meet the guidelines.
Where is tan and red in the guidelines?
There have sample buildings. If you go in the guidelines, there's sample buildings of what they look like and what.
Yeah, but
colors.
they're sample, they're examples.
Yeah, they're examples.
not,
So blue is okay.
right,
I think blue's okay.
I just,
right,
okay,
I don't-
yeah, yeah, everybody can have their own opinion.
Okay.
I don't think it got, color didn't get codified.
Do
I
you want
think
to pull that up really quickly and look through it?
I do think we also need to specify what Ed brought up.
Oh, and then, yeah, so let me amend my motion to state that we also need to make sure that the lights meet the codes of the new lighting districts that we have, or lighting codes designs that we've established.
Correct.
Who seconded it?
I'll
Ed?
second
You
that
agree
again.
with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second that. Again.
All right, so that
Thank you,
amendment's been accepted. Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, Troy, are you voting on this? You missed most of the discussion, or did you get to hear it?
Yeah, is that okay if I don't? Because I just.
Yes, you
I
can,
barely
you can
ca- okay.
abstain because you missed the
Okay.
discussion, so.
Thank
And
you.
then I vote nay. I think it needs more work, and to come back with a new design. But, so that will go forward to city council and they have their final say on it.
Could you give them some suggestions though, as to what you would be looking for?
My suggestion would be that we look through the historic guidelines, and I think that it's super plain roof line. There's nothing over the windows or the door like we've asked for before. Just things like that to dress it up a little bit. And I do think it would be better if it had more earthy tones. I don't think there's anything else in the city that's that color of blue, and I don't think it really blends in very well. So just my opinion on interpretation of those guidelines.
I think though, when you look at the guidelines, you'll find out the guidelines only apply to new construction, not to additions.
They do. And,
So-
you know, but I would say that if you're building something that more than doubles your building size, I think that we would have the right to say, you know, that we could have a little bit of leeway, or we could at least ask whether we require it or not. I think we could at least ask for it. So, okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is another change to a building of the Links and Kings building. And so are you going to introduce that one?
Yes, I'll go ahead and introduce that. So this is the Links and Kings property. It's just south of City Hall here. This is 62 South Main Street. It's the old market. It's right next to J&L Automotive, just north of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too.
So that little wood, yeah, it's a little wood front that's literally right on the sidewalk, has no
Yeah.
setback.
Yeah.
So the back of that property, that's where they're proposing to put this. It's right now it's just a patch of weeds back there. So the property is 0.64 acres. The building size. would be
Really? There's 6.4 acres back there?
It's-
0.64.
0.64.
Like, what the heck?
Yeah, not
Where is
6.
that hiding?
Zero
I think I'm getting
point six
tired.
four, maybe that'll help
Thank
emphasize.
you.
This building is, proposed size would be 5,549 square feet. What they're proposing to do with this building is basically the first floor would be a garage, should be mostly garage space, and then the upper floor would be an apartment or living space. So looking at the setbacks on this, I'll just go change. So this is,
So is this considered a commercial building?
it's in the business commercial zone, but
It's being built as a residential.
it's a
being built
residential
as a
unit.
home.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
we allow residences to be on a business commercial property or even in a business commercial
Right.
building. So for example,
If it's not the primary use though, like you could have an apartment in it.
right, yeah, and so it's on a Links and Kings property. This would be deemed an accessory building, so we would require it to be connected to the same utilities as the current Links and Kings building. It would be an expansion of those utilities. It's actually the owner of Links and Kings that wants to live in it. He actually
And
lives in the
is
other.
that who's here with us tonight? Okay, thanks.
Nice to
he-
have you here.
He actually lives in the, what is it? Anyways, it's an office building. I can't think of the name of it. The Ezra Lee building.
Yeah, because
right
they
now.
have an apartment in
Yeah,
there.
he lives in that apartment right now. So
Right.
his thought process was, well, I'm living in an apartment in the business commercial zone above a business. Why can't I do that on my own business property instead of someone
Okay,
else's?
but my understanding was the ordinance was that you could do that if that wasn't the primary purpose of the building. And that wasn't the
You can do
primary
it
use
in
of
the
the building
building
and it had to
or
have a
on the
certain
property.
space. And
The
it
ordinance allows it on the same property or premises.
doesn't it have to be like the lesser of the two spaces though?
It does not say that.
Really?
No, our ordinance does not say
I
that.
thought that we saw that when we did that links, when we did that
Yeah,
Ezra
I
Lee
can pull it
building.
up for you if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I trust you, but I just
Okay.
remember that discussion when we approved that they wanted the apartment and I thought we had the discussion that it was allowed as long as it wasn't the primary use of the building and it couldn't take up more than a certain percentage of the square footage.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, we might as well just pull it up because I have it on the screen, I think.
Okay.
So residential structures located within or on the same premises as a permitted or conditional commercial use. Both residential and commercial buildings will be considered main buildings and will be required to meet the main building setbacks on the same premises. Residential structures provided, let's move above. That said structure existed as, okay, so that's just saying that if you had a home on
It was already existing as a home.
property is fine. Also customary residential accessory structures, that's just talking about accessory structures. But right here it says, are permitted as a permitted or conditional use. See, I think there's another section that we're missing.
Wait, right here, 10, look at line 10.
Doesn't call out
Exactly.
residential, it just says.
It says it's incidental to and not substantially alter the character of the permitted principal use of the structure.
Yeah,
This is
and-
where this is where we talked about this before, is it had to be incidental to it, not a main purpose. And it seems to me
That-
that a home that's 3 times as big as this.
Right, and
business
that's
space-
talking about accessory uses, but residences are a permitted use in the zone.
So it's considered a primary use.
Yeah, nine
Nine
identifies
says that they'll
specifically
be built
that
in
it's a residential.
Yeah, so
You
it's
can have a
not
main
an
residential
accessory
and
use.
commercial building on the same
It
property.
is
Okay.
an accessory building, but not an accessory use.
Right,
Hmm.
right.
Interesting.
So you can have both on that, which you could not do in a residential zone.
You could, yeah, so it's like, that's like a flag lot, which we basically prohibit. So
Yeah.
that just seems really odd to me that that is not covered in our ordinances.
Well, it's not really a flag lot.
It
because
stays
it's
on
the
the
same-
They're not
it's the
creating a
same
new lot.
lot. I
Right,
mean,
right.
Well, yeah, but
right, I
if, but
mean,
if you,
so-
if you sold a home behind it, like we don't allow a separate home behind your home.
Right.
We allow,
Yeah.
we do
This would
allow
not be
accessory
allowed
apartments.
In the
yeah,
residential
but
zone.
yeah,
In
right,
the-
but this
within
is,
the
home,
but
they
this
can
is
be
a
separate.
commercial.
Yeah.
zone.
And
This
if
is
you
the
have
commercial zone.
5
Right.
acres, you can have a guest
It's not
house
the
on the back of
residential
your
zone.
property,
Yeah, if
right?
you have 5 acres.
But for a guest house ordinance, it has to be on the same driveway. It has to be off of the same utilities. You can't have a new separate
Right,
meter.
right.
So in that same vein.
So this is like putting a guest
It's
house
on the
behind
same,
your
it's
business.
almost like having a
Yeah,
guest
I mean,
house.
it's not a flag lot in the sense it's not subdivided.
No,
He can't
right.
sell the
yeah.
lot off
Can he
to
rent
someone
it?
else. He could rent it out, just like you can rent an accessory apartment in your home.
Like that.
Or like the Ezra Lee building is renting an apartment inside their building.
Hmm.
So, okay, let's see here. So the proposal here, the proposal exceeds the off-street parking requirements. They show 28 parking stalls on their site plan,
Mhm.
which I'll pull up here. So we have that on the screen as we're going over these points. Setbacks, you can see here, they have 22 feet on the rear and 10 feet on the side. The setbacks in the zone are when it's adjacent to another commercial property, it's 10 feet. If it's adjacent to a residential property, it's 20 and 10.
Mhm.
So it meets those requirements either way.
Yep.
Screening. So typically, if there's a parking lot on a business commercial structure that would be adjacent to a residential property, they'd have to screen that. They're not really adding any new parking. This is really existing parking that's already there for the Links and Kings building, so we don't see a need for additional screening. We get to, so this trash storage, this building would have its own trash receptacles that would be stored in the building. So we don't see a need for them to add like a dumpster or something like that. It doesn't seem like it would produce that kind of waste.
Mhm.
The height of the building is 30 feet 10 inches, which meets our ordinance. And the design of the building, which we had up on the screen just previously, I'll just zoom back out, seems to tie in well with some of the existing and approved
Yes.
architectural style that
See,
we
no, I
have in our
like that.
business commercial
That-
zone.
that fits.
It's a pretty building.
This
It's
is the
beautiful.
offices that
Right,
they
right,
had
yeah,
before.
Yeah.
So,
Lots of
right,
stone,
Fits really well.
Yeah,
metal, glass, it's, you know.
exactly. Vertical windows, all of the things that it
Yeah.
says in the
Very
nice.
guidelines, so.
So staff doesn't really have a concern about the design of it. And then the last thing that we need to mention here is landscaping, which is,
Yes.
if we'll zoom in here, so looking at this site plan, you will see on the right-hand side of your screen, that kind of dashed line, this whole area here, this is an access easement to the,
That's where you drive back to get to the building.
right. It-
parking
It
lot.
provides access for this property, but also, let me zoom out a tiny bit, to the properties to the north here. So
Right.
So there's at least two properties, maybe three that access off of this.
Right.
So there's one here, and then I think even this third one has some type of access through here.
So it's shared access. It's actually on the Links and Kings property though?
It is technically on the Links and Kings property, but it's an access easement. So
Mhm.
what that means is Links and Kings can't alter that area. They have to preserve an easement access hard surface for those other properties.
Okay.
Where this comes into play with the landscaping is they're unable to landscape
is
that
none.
area. And so they're requesting that we don't count that area into the percentage requirements for landscaping. If you do consider that as part of the property, what they show on their landscaping plan, and I'll go to the next screen so we can see the landscaping plan. they would have 16% landscaping. However, if we don't count that access easement area in their requirement, they do meet, they're actually at 20%. So just to kind of go over some of the landscaping that they're doing here is they would put, there's a significant amount of, bushes and shrubs that would be put in here. You see back here, some trees and mulch. You see bushes all along here, and they've even kind of have proposed to kind of landscape that area in between J&L and their existing building. So
didn't you say there was more than enough parking though?
there is more than enough parking, yes, to meet our requirements.
Couldn't we take a parking space and make it landscaping and make it easy?
The thing is, this landscaping doesn't benefit anyone. It's back behind the street. Who can see the landscaping back here?
That's the
That's
point that they
true.
wanted to make is
That's true.
if they had maybe some space in between the building, the Links and Kings building and
Right.
the sidewalk, it might add some curb appeal to have some
Right.
landscaping. But nobody even, most of you probably don't even know what's behind that Links and Kings building until tonight.
Yeah, I
Correct.
thought there was, you
So.
were telling me there was 6
I have to
acres, you know?
admit it.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I would
huh?
agree with that.
Right, have to admit, I don't know what's.
I do like they've done, it seems like they've done some potted or some barrels with flowers in the front or some hanging baskets, or something like that. At one point in time, someone did that and it really looked nice because there's literally no landscaping there.
No, so.
Anyway, okay. So-
I mean, this site plan and what they're proposing tonight is really contingent upon
Mhm.
the planning commission
Yeah.
not counting that access easement. So that would have to be something that would be recommended as part of the motion to approve this.
On what you have on the screen right now, those diagonal lines, is that the access easement? Or is that next to the access easement?
Which lines are we talking about?
Right
These
there.
right here?
Yes.
Those are additional parking spots. So.
Does that show from the front of the building?
So this is Main Street. You can see these.
So where is the access to their
Right above
parking?
that.
This is
Above
the,
it?
this.
So
white-
they could
rectangle
landscape,
is-
they could landscape some of those parking spots then, and it would be visible from the street.
You're saying you wanted
Yeah.
to landscape something right here, maybe?
Yeah, if they don't need those parking spots and
I
the
mean-
problem we have is this is right against the street. There's literally no landscaping anywhere.
The builder may want to make comment on this, but I don't know if there are ADA spots there. So it does have to have handicap accessibility.
Yeah.
But if
in
you
the
have,
main
but
Couldn't
if
that,
you had a
couldn't you
planter
have
box,
those back farther?
you
or-
can
But
move them back
I mean,
too.
yeah, there may be ways to
Yeah.
landscape. around that.
I would love it if they could have some landscaping street side, because that whole area looks so sterile because of that, and because it's pulled all the way to the street, and especially where we're, and it's, so there's no
Maybe have
need
like
for those
a-
parking spaces there.
Maybe a little planter area here with some small trees
Right,
and shrubs or something.
exactly, something that would give it some more of the street, yep, because that's the whole point of the landscaping
How,
ordinance.
how much additional square footage do they need to be compliant? That extra 4% of the total area? 0.64
Let me see if I have
acre lot?
that here. I think it was 4,500 square feet. The landscaping plan shows 4,500 square feet of landscaped. Okay, that's a total that's landscaped.
Right.
And that's only 14%, so.
16%.
Okay, so the
16, only
access
4%
easement
more.
takes up 5,873 square feet of the property,
What does?
the access easement.
Right.
Right, but what would,
guess what's your question
just
again?
calculate 20% of what the whole area is.
Wondering is how much more,
How much space?
Oh, how much more to
How
go?
much
So
more?
Percent?
I
How big
just,
of a planter box are we talking?
What's 20%?
I just ran the numbers. I just
Thanks.
ran the numbers to get 20% on the whole lot.
Uh-huh,
They would need 1,162 more square feet.
so a 10 by 10.
no, that's 100 square feet.
Yeah, it would
Every-
wipe out pretty
10 by
much all
100.
those lots. It would wipe out all those parking lots on the north side of the
Right.
building.
Well, what if we allowed an exception, but we still requested some there? Like I said, literally even a 10 by 10, something that's visible from the street where there could be a small tree, a couple shrubs and some, some.
So there's the gray area here we're talking about. There's actually no exception clause for park or for landscaping.
Okay,
So either we need to say it is okay for them to not count that easement area because they have no control over it,
okay,
or we don't.
okay. Can we give them a 50% credit for the easement? Or could we request, could we put out a request that we don't count that, but we would like to have, it would just be goodwill, I guess, to request that we have some, in exchange for that, we have some small area landscape there by the street. I don't know, that's an
That would
idea.
just be a request though, right, is what we're saying.
It would be unless city council,
Just put it into motion.
yeah, I was gonna say, why can't you put it in the motion that we won't count that, but we would like an additional 10
We
by
can do
10
that.
foot, or, something along those lines.
I think that's reasonable.
I think so, especially considering this, exception for this area and the fact that, this is a chance, again, this is a chance to
I think you-
fix a problem with our area.
I think you need to make that at least its own bullet, like you say, okay, we approve the
Right.
landscaping.
Yep.
And we don't consider the easement, and we also highly recommend that there should be some additional landscaping.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, let's do that. Like I said, I just feel like we have so few chances to fix some of the problems with these areas that we.
Prior buildings, yeah.
Right, we need to take it, we want to improve to the city and fit this in with the vision of the area by accommodating.
Just one comment on that. If we're going to take away parking stalls for landscaping, the parking stalls that they would take away and move would be the ADA handicap stalls.
Right.
And those are located where they should be located right now, which is as close to the front door as possible.
Mhm. Is it unacceptable to move those back 2 stalls?
No, it's
So-
just not nice.
Right, but, well, it's not nice, except that normally there would be landscaping there and it wouldn't even be a question that we're having.
That is correct. Yep.
Because we don't allow parking that close to the street normally.
Yep, that is correct.
So I don't think it's anything that's unreasonable. Normally that wouldn't even be there. So I think landscaping that and moving those back 2 spots, I think is perfectly fine.
Well, and it's just a request too, so you can deal with that as you would deem.
All right, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
All right, John.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed site plan for the Lynx and Kings Heindorf building with the following conditions: that we allow the access easement area not to be included in the landscaping requirement calculation, and highly recommend that the first 2 stalls next to the road, parking stalls, be used for a landscaping design.
Okay, we have a motion by, we have a motion by John McKay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. All right,
Very good.
we need to move on to the communications. Does
It's a
anyone
very
have?
nice building.
It is
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful building.
It is.
We didn't ask
it is
for that, but
beautiful.
it's a very nice building.
I will say, meeting with staff is really important. You guys are really great to be with and gave us great direction.
Good.
So
Yeah, it's a-
appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always a fun one.
Oh, I know. Thanks. Sorry you had to stay here through the whole thing and
Right,
be
it's
the
a
last
very- it's
item
a
on the
very
agenda,
gorgeous
so.
looking building.
All right, thanks. Best wishes.
Yeah, I think, I mean, he does have the
Oh, let's take
the
a look.
actual physical
you could just
samples.
bring them over.
That's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
mean, yeah,
Would
that's
you
a-
drop those by the animal hospital on your way out?
Everything you see on the road.
No,
It's
that's great.
it's really beautiful, so. Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
Okay, any communication?
I do have one important communication.
Okay.
So the city council is having a meeting on the 28th. As you know, we've had some items on our agenda which are concerned about the height of buildings and structures in our
Yes.
city.
Yeah.
So on this, on the meeting on the 28th, the mayor is wanting to do a field trip at 5:30 PM. He would like the planning commission to be present there as well.
Okay.
He wants to go and drive around, and we're gonna look at some examples of homes and height situations and
Mhm.
how we might determine height.
Okay, that's the 28th.
The 28th.
And what, where are we meeting?
I believe we'll meet here at City Hall.
Okay,
and
so
then-
meet at City Hall and then
Yeah,
go from there?
And then we'll
Okay.
go from there.
What time?
5:30 PM, and it should go for about an hour, hour and 15 minutes.
Okay,
roughly.
will you send an email communication out about that as well?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll make sure I send
That
you
way
guys a reminder,
we won't
maybe a
forget
calendar
Alan and, okay,
thing for your calendar.
great. We haven't been on a tour for a while.
Right, it's time.
It's time. Last one I think I went on was up to the Bowery. Oh, I guess we did go
We
to
did
Bangerter
Bangerters,
Farms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other communication?
I think that's all I have.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, let's look at the approval of the minutes from August 17th, 2021.
Go for it, Troy.
Well, I motion to approve the minutes from that date.
From August 17th, 2021.
There
We
you
have a
go.
motion by Troy Slade. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by John McKay. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Do we have a motion?
Have a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn
I'll
by
second that.
Ethan Allen and a second by Ed Bush, and all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
and the meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Sorry to ditch you earlier.
We needed your vote. We were very
Yeah.
excited.
I'll have to go back and watch the video to see how it turned out.
Yeah, it was,
Just hang on
We're
one
still
second.
recording on,
Is it flowing on YouTube still?
it's still going on
Hang on
YouTube. I'm
just
trying to
second.
get to
Let's
that. Hold
stop
on
the
a second.
YouTube Streaming service.
This computer's going unresponsive. Hold on a second. Yeah, I could just
Yeah.
pull the plug. That's the easy way to do it.
Disconnect.
Stop recording. And hold on, YouTube. Close that. Okay. We should be not. recording.
We're all safe. Okay,
Yeah.
where's your daughter going on her mission?
Houston, Texas.
Ah,
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I have a nephew who just came home from there. He was supposed to be in India, but he ended up in Houston and he loved it.
good luck.
Yeah, she's excited, so that's good.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, you guys. That made up for all the nice short meetings we've had lately, so.
I know.
Sorry, but I do think those were important things to discuss.
no.
Those are huge.
No, I was happy with our discussion.
Yeah. Oh, he left his siding sample.
Good night.
Oh, I left a sample.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye,
Ted.
Ted. I'm a big fan of blue, by the way. My husband will only allow certain